Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Township Committee meeting of January 30th, 2020. Greg, has adequate notice been given?
Yes, adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was given at both the Chatham Courier and the Morris County Daily Record on January 3rd, 2020. Notice was posted on the bulletin board in the main hallway of the municipal building on January 3rd, 2020. And notice was filed with the Township Clerk on January 3rd, 2020.
Thank you very much. Can we rise for the flag salute? Greg, roll call.
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Svindako?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay. Thank you very much. Before we get to the approval of the agenda, let me just ask for a show of hands, if I may. Who is here for the affordable housing topic tonight? That's what I suspected. Very good. Thank you for coming. This is an important issue, and I think an engaged and interested citizenry is certainly a sign of a healthy community. So we appreciate you taking the time to be here. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. You'll notice on the agenda that we have some non-affordable housing business to take care of before we get to the affordable housing. I think we can get through it promptly. Later on tonight, when we do get to the affordable housing portion, you can expect that we'll be giving some reports on 3 different topics. One is the status of litigation. One is some recent construction cost estimates that we've received for various affordable housing options. And one is appraisals on various pieces of municipally owned property. So those are the reports that we'll be getting. Just so it's clear, we will not be taking any action on those reports or on any site-related action tonight. We have basically we've heard the message that I think that the community has sent, that you're interested in information and you want to know what the facts are. So that's what we're doing tonight, is trying to get those out to the community. So in many cases, we're still waiting for more information. I think we got some of the construction updated edited version came in just last night. And I think one of the appraisals just came in late this afternoon. So this is pretty current information. After the presentations on this new information, we have 3 resolutions related to affordable housing that you can see on the agenda. And then, as usual, at any Township Committee meeting, we'll have 2 opportunities for the public to be heard. One is early in the meeting, and certainly everybody is welcome to ask or make any comments that they would like. But just to point out that first public session will be before we get to the affordable housing portion. And then after the resolutions, there'll be a second hearing for public citizens. And again, after you've had the benefit that really we've only had in the last 2 days or so of hearing this information, just like we're still digesting it. I understand that you'll just be digesting it, but if you have comments or about it, we certainly would welcome anyone coming to the microphone on that. But on that light, I guess emphasizing the fact that we are just digesting a lot of this information ourselves, we certainly will try to answer any questions that we can regarding this latest information. But the reality is that as we digest it and understand it and compare it and analyze it, I think some of those answers may have to wait until we do go through that process. So please be understanding if we don't have all that data totally ready to and analyze for you. And with that said, let's get down to the business part of the agenda. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to accept it?
Before we do, I would like to ask that we separate Resolution 2020-058 from the consent agenda to be just taken up as a discussion matter separate from the consent agenda.
Okay?
And I would like to amend the agenda to remove Resolution 059, approving goals and objectives. We did get a draft back. We did work on goals and objectives at our meeting on January 16th. We just got a draft back earlier this week, and I don't believe that all of us, with all the work that's been done on affordable housing this week, that we haven't had adequate chance to go through those. So I'd like to give us another 2 weeks to go through those.
Greg, do we need a motion on, or a vote on changing the agenda, or just?
No, just do a motion to approve it as amended.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye?
Okay.
Aye.
Very good. Okay. Committee reports. Celeste, would you have any reports to start with?
Oh, you're going to start with me?
Is your microphone on?
Pardon me?
Is your microphone on?
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Sounds good.
Okay. I have an environmental report, and it's the single-use plastic bag ordinance is going into effect on March 1st. So the Chatham Township and the Chatham Borough Environmental Commission is getting a group to collect extra reusable bags to be distributed to residents who need them. And if you have any extras, they can be dropped off at the Township Municipal Building, the Senior Center, Borough Hall, and the Purple Aardvark. They are also looking for members to join their green team to work on sustainable Jersey certification. There will be a tree seedling giveaway at Tanglewood on Saturday, April 12th from 9 till noon. And Joe Besralian's Boy Scout troop has rerouted the trail at the Green Village Pond to make it a loop along with 2 new bridges. There will be a cleanup of the trail on April 18th, and everyone's invited to help out. The Mealy Trust has granted a conservation easement on their portion of the Rolling Knolls landfill to keep as open space with no development. Now, Amy Mason is the Energy Subcommittee Chair, has submitted a sample ordinance to authorize the township to become a government aggregator, am I saying that right? I don't know, of electric generation service for the residential and non-residential customer electric power. It should save money for the residents and increase the percentage that's coming from renewables. Also, that's that with now I'm going to go on to the Historical Society. They had a 2019 grant from the Morris County Historical Preservation Trust Fund, and it's being used for their preservation plan for the Red Brick Schoolhouse. They're also raising funds for a headstone for Madam Bay and her husband, Sidkey Bay. They were both buried in Fairmont Cemetery in unmarked graves. Madam Bay has also been nominated into the New Jersey Boxing Hall of Fame. And they, what am I talking about? The historical people had met with the Madam Bay's great-grandchildren, and they're all excited about this. So on April 23rd at 2 p.m. there will be a presentation at the Municipal Building by Glenn LeBeau about John and Abigail Adams, and the museum will be open from 2 to 4 this coming Sunday. Okay, I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you, Celeste. Karen? Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you very much. A couple of weeks ago, Mayor Kelly and I had a chance to sit down with PSE&G regarding their their Roseland Pleasant Valley pipeline, their overhead wire project. If you look throughout our PSE&G right-of-way, you'll see obviously the new monopoles that were put in within the last number of years. The old ones go back, I think, Bob, they said to the Hoover administration, right? We've discussed this before when we first learned from PSE&G what their plans were. They are going to be taking down all those old lattice work, power line holders, if you will, from Roseland all the way down through Livingston, Chatham Borough, Chatham Township, and so on. In order to accomplish this, they were looking for staging areas throughout that 50-mile, 55-mile swath of right-of-way, and one thing they cited was the Ferber property in Green Village. PSE&G has actually taken ownership. They purchased the 50 acres of Ferber property, which are in Chatham Township, Green Village district, and they are going to use that area for a staging area. The materials and vehicles that they will be using to construct our local portion of the new poles will be staged from the Ferber property. And when they are done, which may not be for several years now, but when they are done, they are going to hand that over for perpetual preservation. Their PSE&G will not be building on it. They will not be selling it to anybody who will be building on it. It will be preserved in its entirety as undeveloped land. So that's the Ferber property out in Green Village. It runs behind the Green Village Fire Company. You may know it's there, but not much is ever going to go on with the exception of the couple of years that JCP&L needs it. We had a great donors party at the senior center on Sunday. We were all there. It was fabulous. Really a tribute to the wonderful folks who support our senior center. They rely, of course, on funding from our municipality and certain other grants, but mostly the senior center relies on the contributions of generous folks like you, generous folks throughout our community, and the senior center wishes to thank each and every person who's made a donation in the last year, and also the party was just a very nice way of thanking everybody who does contribute to this wonderful resource in our community. That is about it. Please save the 25th of April. Celeste has already got you booked for most of April on Saturdays, but on the 25th, the Senior Center will be having one of their famous shred events, and they will be obviously accepting contributions. You can stand there and watch your documents being shred, and it goes for a great cause. That's the 25th of April, Saturday. And that's it.
Thank you, Karen. Stacy, like to
Sure.
say anything?
So it was a busy month of meetings. A lot of the meetings were focused on reorganization and voting in new chairs and vice chairs. The Board of Health met on, they do meet the second Tuesday of each month. They met on January 14th. The next meeting is on February 11th. Since we have a large audience here, I'll just take a couple of minutes to tell you about the Board of Health. Their activities address personal health and environmental health issues, and they cover everything from septic and well permits to reviewing school compliance with rules on vaccination, to reviewing food service businesses. So they cover a wide spectrum of personal and environmental health issues. The public health nursing supervisor, Maureen Dolan, we subcontract our health services out of Madison. That was part of some shared service initiatives that took place. And Maureen Dolan has let us know that you could still get flu vaccines. They have about 20 doses available at the Madison health office. And you can still get it. It's March 31st is typically the end of the season, but it lingers on in New Jersey. There's a lot of concern about the coronavirus, and that's just going to grow now that the World Health Organization declared it a public health emergency of international concern. There are daily updates, if you're interested, at the New Jersey Department of Health and cdc.gov. She also provided a 1-800 number if people have questions, 1-800-222-1222. So if you have any questions about the coronavirus, you can call there. She also did advise that healthcare providers who are seeing patients who may be suspect are asked to call the health department where the person lives. Another meeting, MAC, the Municipal Alliance Committee of the Chathams, met on January 8th at Borough Hall. Their next meeting is February 12th. Madison Chatham Coalition and the Municipal Alliance Committee of the Chathams work closely together for substance abuse prevention. The MCC is focused on youth use prevention. MAC is focused on community-wide. They have wonderful initiatives throughout the community. I encourage you to attend their meetings. They are looking for additional members for both organizations, and they need a new coordinator for the Municipal Alliance Committee of the Chathams. But they do everything from coordinating the challenge day at the high school to bringing bullying, anti-bullying programs to the community, vaping programs. As a matter of fact, Madison Chatham Coalition on the Madison Area-wide website has a podcast on vaping that's very good. So I encourage you to go there to learn more about it. And their next meeting, MAC, is February 12th, Madison Chatham Coalition. I actually don't have their next meeting date. And then also the Mayor's Wellness Committee met on January 14th. Their next meeting is on February 11th. Their focus for the next year is on advanced care planning. A lot of the health professionals see a lot of situations where families are managing end-of-life situations, and they just are in great stress. So it's a focus of that organization. So you'll see programs coming out over the year to help people to learn about how to plan for advanced care planning. And then the last piece was the Senior Center Advisory Committee. I mentioned it a little bit at the last meeting. Their next meeting is February 20th. Certainly, I encourage senior citizens to attend, but then anybody who's involved in the care of their parents. I think it was a wonderful meeting. You have an opportunity. They're there to advocate on behalf of senior citizens. So it's a wonderful opportunity if you have any issues that you want to explain and to help them prioritize where they're going to focus. They had a presentation. There was a representative from Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill's office to talk about how they support the community. And they're a liaison when people have issues. If they could follow up on anything related to Social Security, Medicare, veterans, the IRS, the Postal Service, a favorite topic in town, and Customs and Immigration. So certainly you should try and resolve through your normal course of action, but they're there to support you as well. And I think that's it for now.
Thank you, Stacy. Tracy?
Like Stacy said, most of our meetings in January focus on reorganization and budget planning and all of those things, and to that end, the joint court met. I don't know if everyone knows that we entered into a sharing agreement many years ago with the joint court, which encompasses the Chathams, Madison, Morris Township, and Harding. And a piece of good news from the joint court is that our budget was actually lower than expected. It went from $791,000 down to $664,000. The township pays a percentage based on the number of cases that we have each year, and those decreased from 9.5% to 7.5% for a total of 1,640 cases. So the good news out of all of that is that we will receive a rebate of over $12,000 based on the lower amount of court cases. And as a result of the lower budget, we'll be receiving $18,230. So that's a nice little give back while providing shared services and working with our neighboring municipalities. We pay about $56,000 a year for this service, so it was a substantial cost savings back in 2012 when we moved to this shared service. And we met with the Public Safety Committee. We met with just the police chief this time because we had to sign some of their programs and services that they were going to be offering for the year. I got a copy of the 2017 road traffic survey done by the county for Southern Boulevard. It is many pages long, and we've asked for them to update that for 2019 or 2020 so that we can do a comparison between 2017 and 2020. So they're going to go ahead, the county will go ahead and do a traffic count for Southern Boulevard in the spring of 2020. And I think Karen asked to call out part of our consent agenda, which is something that the police have requested. It's a new initiative called Hope One Project. It assists police officers who are having issues with addiction or recovery, and it's a wonderful program that's going to start here in the township, and I think Karen called that out to just draw some attention to that initiative. And then finally, Colony Pool has not met, but we are going to regroup shortly, and we have a new committee member that we're welcoming this evening. And I'm going to put a shout out to anybody who would like to join Colony Pool. It is a wonderful facility in the township, and it's not expensive, and you can take a dip right in the middle of Chatham in a spring-fed pool, and we need 2 new committee members. The only requirement is that you join Colony Pool. So if anybody has any questions about Colony Pool or would like to know more about it, we have a Facebook page, and we welcome any new members to the committee. And that's what I have.
Thank you very much, Tracy. And I have, I guess I wanted to just elaborate on Karen's Ferber property report, kind of from an open space perspective, which I was the liaison to last year. The Ferber property was really the top open space property in the town that the Open Space Committee had its eye on and thought it was really the crown jewel. Really, since the town was able to get the Giralda Preserve back in 2015, this was now the #1 property and that they felt was the most worthy of preserving. And so this is a great accomplishment, and it's an accomplishment at no expense to the township because PSE&G is buying it. So we wanted to thank the Ferber family for their stewardship of a lovely piece of property, and wanted to thank PSE&G for hopefully being a great neighbor in the short term and giving us a great asset in the long term. Just looking ahead, this property will be coming before our planning board in the near future. There's not a date for it yet, but just so the public is aware, it will be used as a staging area for the monopole project, which could stretch for a good 2 years, 2.5 years. So there will be truck traffic there. They will be bringing in the poles, bringing out the poles to the right-of-ways. They have given preliminary assurances that they are very conscious of how they do that and the hours and all the rest. But the details of that whole proposal will be all spelled out and analyzed by the planning board. And I think if that's something that you are interested in, or anybody you know might be interested in, keep an eye on the planning board agenda for these coming months, and we'll try to keep you posted on that as well.
I think they said they were going to try and file a site plan application in February.
Okay.
So whether that actually makes it to an agenda in February is to be seen, but they were shooting for
It
that.
will be soon.
For their application.
Because I think they want to start using it in midsummer. So, on a separate item, the Library Board of Trustees, as you know, a couple of years ago, they developed construction plans for really upgrading our shared library of the Chathams, and they put it on a back burner because the state came out with a grant program that looked like it would be a big help in funding it. Now, it's taken the state over 2 years to get the process in place for applying and awarding these grants, but it finally has come around, and we have invited the library board representatives to come here at our meeting of, February 27th, to give a updated presentation on their construction plans. They're also asking the Township Committee to pass a resolution that involves funding for the difference. So there'll be a cost ask in that as well. So we'll just so everybody is aware that will be coming our way on February 27th. And that's all I have. So we've reached the first hearing of citizens. Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't asked our, John, do you want to go first?
Boy, actually,
I apologize.
No report, Mayor. The only thing I would just clarify, just so if anyone is interested in the PSE&G application, it will be the Board of Adjustment that they go to.
Are they going, okay,
They go to the Board of Adjustment, so.
Thank you.
Watch that agenda.
okay,
That's the agenda. That's the one to watch.
very good. Bob? Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are several items to report on. Tonight, we're going to be discussing some important issues, and they affect the future of Chatham, and they affect how people view Chatham as a place to live. But before we start that, there's something that we have to discuss that's much more important. And the thing that's more important than that is that we have to take care of our health, both physical and mental. And unless we can take care of our health and the health of our neighbors and our family, all of the other issues that we're going to be talking about tonight and for the rest of the year don't amount to a hill of beans. Former committee member Ritter, a while ago, texted me a message that a student at the Oak Knoll School committed suicide. And he's asked if I could remind all of our residents that if you know somebody that's struggling or has some shock or grief, that they can text SHARE, capital SHARE. Text SHARE to 741741 to reach out to a crisis text line counselor or to call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-8255. So tonight, as we discuss affordable housing, as we discuss any other issues that the members of our community want to discuss, please remember that there's something more important, and that's the health of yourselves, that's the health of your family, that's the health of your friends. And to have to report and to know that a student took their own life because they didn't think they thought that they couldn't live anymore is just wrong. And I hope it puts everything in perspective tonight. So I apologize for starting on a serious note, but this is the most important thing that we're going to be talking about tonight is the health, welfare, and safety of our family. Moving on to other items. There will be coming to the Township Committee in the future some information about Longwood Avenue. The residents of Longwood Avenue have filed a petition or sent a petition to me, and that'll be coming to the Township Committee. They're concerned about a parking situation involving high school students. Longwood Avenue is near the high school, and with the change to the open campus, we now have a number of students, over 30 a day, that are parking on the street, and they are causing some difficulties. They're blocking mailboxes, they're blocking driveways. I was invited into one of the neighbors' houses, and I watched as students park their cars and walk through people's front yards and backyards to get to school. And it's causing a quality of life issue on the street. Our goal is to speak with the Board of Education and to see how this can be solved. The obvious problem to solve this is to have more parking on the campus. Other issues we will deal with, but our police have looked into this matter. We will be looking at changing the parking ordinance, but we can't do that until we know whether the school board will be changing the time of school, whether it'll be starting later or not. So the residents have been very kind. They've been gracious about this. This problem came up about 20 years ago, and then it had been solved. But the open campus issue, the open campus concept has caused this issue to come up, and the goal is to solve it holistically so that the parking issue is not pushed to another street. So that'll be coming up to the Township Committee, but the police chief and myself and one of our officers, we've had some brief meetings about this, but our longer-term plan is to meet with the Board of Education and then to come back to the Township Committee and start to address this. On the agenda tonight is a resolution to go out to bid for a pool concession stand. The Meat House, which was our concession stand operator in 2019, will not be back. I was able to speak with them, and they have decided that They're going to concentrate on other things, so that's why this item is on the agenda. The two other resolutions that are on the agenda are Resolution 2020-56 and 2020-60. These two resolutions have to do with energy auctions. Today at between 11:30 and 12 o'clock, the township participated in a reverse energy auction for our raw energy, the energy that we use to heat and to light the building, or actually it's the electricity for the meters. There's about 30 meters throughout the town. And we pay between 8.15 cents per kilowatt hour to 11.99 cents per kilowatt hour. The energy auction, the best price that the township received was for 24 months at a price of approximately 7.4 cents per kilowatt hour, and that's a projected annual savings of $48,000 a year, or a reduction of 21.73%. Over 2 years, that'll save the township $96,349. So I'm asking the Township Committee to consider adopting that resolution. The prices are good for 36 hours. There's still a few things I would like to do to make sure that our due diligence is in order. Our contracts expire for our raw electric during the month of June. I just want to verify that, because this contract would start once that ends, and I want to make sure everything lines up. But I was very pleased with the auction. I was surprised at the prices, and this is a good value for the township. The second energy auction was for streetlights, for the energy for streetlights, and we use about 856,000 kilowatt hours a year for streetlights. The savings would be about $1,700 a year, and that equates to a 16.81% savings per year, or $8,800 over the life of the contract. The best value for the streetlights was a 5-year option. So we're paying about 6 cents a kilowatt hour right now, and we would be paying right about 5 cents a kilowatt hour for that. So I'm asking the Township Committee to authorize those two action items, so we can get better prices and help preserve our budget.
Good news.
The two other items, Mr. Mayor, there is I believe it was Committeewoman Ewald had mentioned shared services that has been mentioned in the past by other members of the Township Committee. There's a new group that is being started in 4 counties, and its name is called MUSE, Morris, Union, Somerset, and Essex counties. So there are administrators from the 4 counties that are going to be getting together on a monthly basis to look at regional issues and to see how we can help each other. So I wanted to compliment my colleague from Berkeley Heights. She and I had met, and she has taken the lead on this, and she sent out the invitations, and she is quarterbacking this. So it's very exciting to see. There has been unanimous buy-in from the administrators in 4 counties, so we're looking forward to our first meeting, which will be coming up soon. I'll report back more on that later on during the year. And then last but not least, we are going to be hearing from our citizens about affordable housing and other issues that are going to be on their mind. And all of our residents have 5 minutes to speak. And this is public comment, so we're looking forward to hearing our residents' comments. The Township Committee and the professional staff, we accept the comments, we go back and we do work on the comments. It's my belief that the Township Committee has heard our residents on many different levels about many different topics, and I would just ask that our residents understand that the Township Committee works as a group. They debate issues, they decide on issues, and when they decide on issues, it's decided as a group. It's not individuals. They take a vote and they decide on what is in the best interest of the township overall. So they're acting as a group, not as individuals. And I think that's that's just important, that when we have our comments, that we listen to the comments, we listen to what our residents say, and then we have a chance to think about it, and then get back to our residents at a future meeting. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Albert, any?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you very much. We've come to our first hearing of citizens. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are not topics scheduled for public hearings tonight. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to come to the microphone and will be limited to 5 minutes. So if anybody would like to speak at this time, please come to the microphone. And start by identifying yourself and where you live, if you would.
Sure. My name is Fran Drew. I live at 32 Inwood Road in Chatham. I want to speak about something tonight because I can't come on February 13th. That's my 78th birthday, and I don't want to come on my birthday. I came here in 2014, 2015, and 2016, and part of 2017. I came in and spoke against a second sidewalk on Lafayette Avenue. Then it became a dead issue since the money wasn't claimed in time to proceed, and I thought that was the case. However, when I came back on October 24th, 2019, before you, or before some of the other folks, to tell you about the tree slaughter that Jersey Central Power and Light did in your town on Lafayette Avenue, I heard that the second sidewalk issue had reawakened. If any of you, and I hope all of you will do this, go to the Lafayette School, that's where all the fourth graders are, on Lafayette Avenue, just when it closes at 3:15 p.m., you will see 5 buses that drive most of the kids home. And you will see that the rest of the students cross the street from the school, and there's a crossing guard there. They walk down the existing sidewalk, which is on the west side of Lafayette Avenue. Then they all cross Watchung Avenue, where there's a crossing guard, and then they continue to walk on the existing west side down to Main Street, Chatham Borough. I see that very frequently since I live on Inwood Road, which is about 7 houses away from Lafayette. We have done studies in 2015 and 2016. There is no need for a second sidewalk on Lafayette Avenue. In fact, it would result in accidents that have not occurred in that area. Why? Because kids walking on both sides of the streets would be more likely to run to the other side to talk to their pals back and forth. That would be a disaster. Lafayette Avenue is in my Chatham neighborhood. The street, which already has a sidewalk, is a safe conduit for students who travel to Chatham schools. Your safety study supports that fact. Lots of streets in Chatham, in the township and in the borough, have no sidewalks. That's what makes Chatham great. That would make it a beautiful place to live in. Inwood Road on my special street has no sidewalks on either side. It's rural, it's tree-lined, it's beautiful, and it is safe. Even your former township administrator, Mr. Thomas Chiccarone, was against a second sidewalk. At one of the meetings, he said that, quote, "The slow down signs that I suggested and reducing the speed limit to 25 miles an hour would be more effective than installing a second sidewalk on the east side of Lafayette Avenue. Please use common sense and don't ruin our beautiful, safe neighborhood." And I have some documents I'd like to leave for the mayor, please, and the committee people.
Thank you, Mrs. Drew.
Thank you.
Anyone at this time, or should we move forward to more business? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. The next order of business is the introduction of 2 ordinances. Greg, could you read the title of the first?
Ordinance 2020-01, ordinance of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 6 of the Township Code to amend the annual renewal fee for liquor licenses. This is on the agenda at my request. This ordinance is the culmination of a process that started back around 2012. It used to be that we had, by ordinance, an allowance for 2 consumption licenses and 2 distribution licenses. At a time when what's now Ace Hardware was vacant. Based on population, the township is in a position to be able to allow for the creation of a 3rd consumption license. So the Township Committee decided way back when to amend the ordinance to allow for the creation of that 3rd license, and at the same time decided to begin the process of increasing liquor license renewal fees. The state sets a maximum renewal fee of $2,500, and okay, thank you. And then the state also limits how much you can increase it from one year to the next, which is why it's taken, roughly 8 years to go through that process. So if it's the committee's desire, you can introduce and later adopt this ordinance to finish that process of moving toward the maximum renewal fee, and it's helps our budget with by increasing our miscellaneous revenues.
Very good. Thank you, Greg. Can I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. The hearing, Greg, will be... This is just an introduction, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want discussion first at all, or?
Any comments?
I just want a clarification. So we have 2 out of the 3 consumption licenses that are currently,
Yes, we currently have 4 active liquor licenses, 2 distribution and 2 consumption. The active consumption licenses are Fairmount Country Club and Charlie Brown's. And if at some point, if there's sufficient interest in a 3rd consumption license, there's a state mandated process for that. It's usually done by auction, which could allow for a little bit of a windfall. If and when Albert knows that process, we can go through that if and when necessary. But this ordinance most immediately affects the renewal fee for the currently active licenses, and the 2 distribution licenses are the liquor store next to Ace Hardware and the one down by ShopRite.
thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, Greg, can we have a roll call?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Hortz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
And Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
And the public hearing will be on February 13th.
Thank you, Greg. Our next item of business is the ordinance 2020-02, Cap Bank Ordinance. Greg, could you read the title?
Ordinance 2020-02, ordinance of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
And second?
Second?
Thank you. Any comments?
Yes. Bob, could you explain this a little bit, because I had a chance to ask you briefly. It sounds like it's just just some guidance for when we do the budget, as opposed to, because it seemed very specific, and without doing the budget, that's why I was a little confused.
Well, what this is this is the opportunity for the Township Committee to basically put aside an extra amount of funds in case there's an emergency. This is a 3-year rolling average. Each year, the Township Committee, if they're interested in doing this, and by the way, I recommend we do this, it's done every year, can increase the budget by up to 2.5%. What this does is this allows the township to increase that to up to 3.5% over the previous year's final appropriations. What the township doesn't use that full 3.5%, but it puts it into a bank in case there's an emergency, and then we're able to tap into that bank. So it's a 3-year average. It's what what was in for, I guess it's 2016 drops off, or 2017 drops off. So this is not something that accumulates over time. It's a specific 3-year average, and then each year that changes. But this is part of good budgeting, and it provides the township with a rainy day, with access to a rainy day emergency funds should it so need it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Any other comments? Greg, can we have a roll call?
Yes, Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondacco?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
And Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
And public hearing again will be on February 13th.
Thank you, Greg. Next item of business is our consent agenda. Greg, if you could read the titles.
This evening, we have Resolution 2020-048, receipt of reports, 2020-049, approving meeting minutes, 2020-50, approving executive session minutes, 2020-51, settling tax appeal, 2020-52, settling a different tax appeal, 2020-53, refunding permit fee, 2020-54, authorizing RFP for Colony Pool Concession Stand 2020-21 and 2020-22. Resolution 2020-55, renewing contract with Piazza & Associates as administrative agent. 2020-56, energy aggregation / energy auction, which is what Mr. Hoffman described before. 2020-57, appointing member to Colony Pool Advisory Committee. And 2020-60, energy auction for streetlights, which is also part of what Mr. Hoffman explained earlier.
Thank you, Greg. Can I have a motion to adopt?
So moved?
And second?
Second.
Any comments? Just a quick one. The number 55, renewing contract with Piazza & Associates, that is indirectly related to our affordable housing topic, so I'll just point that out. Piazza & Associates is the administrative agent, which means he's the one in charge of vetting the ownership of people who buy the units down at Vernon Grove, which is a service that we don't have to get into ourselves. And that's up to a dollar amount of $7,500 a year.
And that's continuing service that they've provided since 2010.
Yes, they've been working with us on that for a long time. Greg, can I have a roll call?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondacco?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Motion passes. And at this time, would you like to take up approving the Perry initiative?
Yes. Thank you, Greg. Can we have a motion on the Parry Initiative resolution?
So moved.
And seconded? From the two of you.
Ty, owe me a Coke.
Second?
Very good.
May I read it?
Any comment? Yes.
Your Honor. As both Tracy and Mayor Kelly mentioned, this was something that came as a result of our police chief and police department's obvious increased awareness of whatever methods we can employ to combat the scourge of opiate addiction and other addictions. At the initiative of our Hope One project led by Sheriff Jim Gannon, the Perry Initiative is a police-assisted addiction and recovery initiative. It was part of our consent agenda, but our intention really is to make sure our residents know that wherever we have the opportunity to call into play another tactic, another arrow in our quiver, if you will, to prevent or to remedy addictions, we will do that. And I am going to read to you this resolution separate from our consent agenda. Whereas the Chatham Township Police Department has requested authorization from the Township Committee to take part in a new initiative, Hope One Project Perry, Police Assisted Addiction and Recovery Initiative. And whereas the Township's Public Safety Committee has met with the Chief of Police to review this initiative and is in agreement with the Chief's recommendation to participate in this valuable program. And whereas the mission is to aid those actively seeking police assistance when struggling with opiate or other substance use disorders to obtain resources and access to treatment. Whereas the Township of Chatham's Parry Initiative enables police officers to immediately offer a pathway to recovery by providing a certified peer recovery specialist and a safe private environment to discuss the help needed, and whereas non-judgmental support and immediate and ongoing assistance by a professional peer recovery specialist will have a positive impact on the recovery and healing of an individual and their family. Whereas the Chatham Township Police Department, partnering with the school district, interfaith leaders, and the Municipal Alliance, recognize the disease of addiction as a nationwide epidemic. Whereas the Chatham Township Committee plays a vital role in assisting the Chatham Township Police Department through joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts in the Township of Chatham and is supporting the Perry Initiative. And whereas it is essential that all citizens of the Township of Chatham be aware of the importance of drug addiction and crime prevention programs and the impact that addiction recovery and advocacy will have on their quality of life, as well as reducing crime, drugs, and violence in the Township of Chatham's. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, Morris County, New Jersey, fully support the Chatham Township Police Department and the community groups partnering with them in their implementation of Perry Initiative for taking a leadership role in creating a positive impact on individuals and their families struggling with addiction and thus providing a clear path to recovery. Do we ask for a motion to adopt this resolution?
We have the motion.
We have the motion
We
in a
have the
second.
motion.
So any comments?
Mayor, if I may quick share with you, I got a text message from our videographer, Ms. Gonzalez, that for one of her TV classes, she actually made a video on the Hope One and the Perry initiatives, which she has offered to at some point share with the Township Committee if you're interested.
Very good.
That would be great, Alex. Good
wonderful.
job.
Thank you.
Thanks. Send it along.
And I think this topic becomes especially timely in light of what Administrator Hoffman reported earlier about the suicide of a student. I think the troubled issues are all interrelated. So this is great to hear that this is another helping hand that we can stretch out. Greg, can you take the vote?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Svendaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Swartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Okay, we've come to the portion of the agenda for the affordable housing discussions. We will have three presentations in a minute. One by Township Attorney Albert Cruz, who will update us on the status of litigation involving affordable housing. A second report by our Township Administrator and our Township Engineer regarding reports on construction projects that at various municipally owned sites that would involve the affordable housing options. And a third report, which again by Administrator Hoffman, on the various appraisals that we've received. But first, I'd like to offer some context and background on the affordable housing subject. Contrary to what many of you probably have seen on yard signs and on Facebook recently, Chatham Township does not face an obligation of 200 new affordable housing units. Our obligation, in fact, is for 8 regional contribution units that we made a contribution to Newark years ago. They were built in Newark. They were funded by us, but this happened in the 1990s. We are not experiencing any impact locally from those at all. The obligation goes on. We have 72 units at Vernon Grove. These are not new units. These were there at Vernon Grove for 32 years. Their affordability controls would have expired at the end of 30 years, except we negotiated with the owners and reached a amicable agreement with them to continue those for affordability controls for another 30 years. We have another 24 units, which will be new at Arbor Green, which is what the developer is calling that portion of the skate park project. So that will be 24 new units. And we are grappling with a remaining 74 units. So depending on how you add it up, if you take those last two numbers that are still outstanding, the 74 and 24, we do have 98 units that we are dealing with. So that's less than half of the 200 that are being promoted on yard signs. So I want to make that clear so everybody knows going into tonight's conversation what we're talking about there. You also may have seen on Facebook the claim that no municipality has to spend money on affordable housing. And that statement is in fact half right. A town has two options basically to provide affordable housing. They can go with the builder's remedy and they can escape paying the upfront municipal costs by rezoning land in their township that would provide enough space to meet their obligation. But under that definition, and because you're asking the builder to assume the entire cost of building it, you not only have to allow for the affordable housing obligation, you have to provide for 4 times as many market rate units so that the builder can fund the affordable portion of his development. So our units, our total units, if we had not preserved Vernon Grove, had not had the regional contribution, and had not have the remaining 98, that we could have had up to 1,000. We would have had to have zoned enough land to accommodate 1,000 new units. And by doing that, we would have escaped the expense up front, but we would have obligated us to a lot of expense going forward in terms of additional children in the schools, additional traffic on the roads, and additional density in our township overall. We did not choose to go that route. We chose to go the second route, which is called a 100% municipally sponsored development. And by going that route, we reduced that potential development from 1,000 down to 200. In fact, it's 178 is the actual number, because you have some bonuses and carry forwards from round 2 that actually reduce our brick and mortar number below this 200 number. And by doing that, we will have municipal expenses, a cash upfront expense. However, we will avoid those other ongoing expenses that I mentioned of ongoing costs for the students in the schools and the traffic that those extra units would generate. So all that information is in detail on our township web page, Chatham Township-nj.gov, and there's probably the simplest way and the easiest way to understand it is just go to the FAQs at the top of the affordable housing page and kind of read that and familiarize yourself with any other question there that you might benefit from reading. And that there's also the settlement is on that web page. So if anybody has a bent to read the actual legal language, they can click on the settlement button as well and get the full account there. So with that being said, I would like to invite our attorney to start us with the update on the status of litigation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This status is regarding the principal affordable housing litigation, which is, if you're looking at the agenda, it's under the executive session is item 1. I'm not discussing item 2. On January 10th, 2020, the township filed a notice of motion with the Superior Court of New Jersey seeking the following relief: approval of the development fee ordinance and spending plan. The development fee ordinance was adopted at the end of last year. The spending plan is on your agenda for tonight. Approval to extend the compliance period to June 14, 2020, or 120 days from February 14th, 2020, which is the hearing date on the motion. approval to extend the construction start date of the 100% municipally sponsored affordable housing development until June 30, 2022, and approval extending the temporary immunity from builders' remedy lawsuits until the compliance hearing. That motion, along with supplemental certifications and brief, is posted on the Township website under the Affordable Housing tab. On January 24, 2020, the Fair Share Housing Center filed opposition to the Township's motion and filed a cross-motion seeking very specific relief. Fair Share Housing Center is an advocate for affordable housing in New Jersey, and as of right, by order of the New Jersey Supreme Court, has standing in all affordable housing lawsuits. The relief that Fair Share Housing seeks is to have the special master appointed as an implementation monitor to prepare the affordable housing plan for the township, to select the site or sites for 100% municipally sponsored affordable housing development, and to take any other steps necessary to ensure compliance. Now, the reason the township made the initial motion on January 10th was because it needed additional time to come into compliance with the terms of the settlement agreement. In addition to that relief, Fair Share Housing is seeking a stay of all site plan approval vesting, including the vesting of the Dixie-Dale and Arbor Green approvals that were granted by the Planning Board on December 16th, 2019. In other words, if Fair Share Housing's motion is granted, Dixie-Dale would not proceed forward to construction. The Fair Share Housing is also seeking an order declaring that land in this municipality be declared a scarce resource, and the concept there being that there's a limited amount of land, and that land should not be utilized for development unless affordable housing is included within that development. That same concept very often applies to sewer capacity, where sewer capacity is declared a scarce resource, so it is not utilized until affordable housing needs are addressed. Prohibiting further development without Superior Court approval. Specifically, not approving the spending plan, Fair Share Housing to be awarded legal fees and costs for bringing the enforcement action. Fair Share Housing does present an alternative to that relief, that the court order a clear and firm schedule that brings the township into full compliance with the settlement agreement within 90 days, and that clear schedule be developed by the special master, and that if the township fails to abide by the schedule developed by the special master, that failure would result in sanctions to the township. That cross motion is also on the township website, along with a certification and brief in support of that motion. The township's response is due next Friday, February 7th, and I am in the process of preparing that response. The judge at present has two motions regarding extensions. The township has moved for a 120-day extension. Fair Share Housing has indicated that 90 days is more appropriate, and the special master's report is scheduled to be received by the judge on February 12th, 2020, and the special master may present yet a third option to the judge, and of course the judge is free to mold his own remedy and decide what option he would order. However, whatever option the judge orders will result in a compressed time schedule for the township to select a site or sites for the 100% affordable housing development, and to proceed through the planning process to be in full compliance with the settlement agreement by the end of the period allowed by the judge. That is a summary of the legal proceedings before the court. It doesn't address the issues that the Township Committee is going to be discussing shortly and in subsequent meetings. But there will be a compressed period that the Township has to take certain actions, and you're not really going to know how much time you actually have until February 14th, when that motion is heard by the judge. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but that's the procedural posture of the case.
Just for clarification, under the Fair Share Housing's, what they're filing, that first scenario, it's my understanding that they've also requested that our builder's remedy immunity would be removed.
Correct. That is one of the first things that they're requesting, that the township be stripped of its temporary immunity for builder's remedy, for builder's remedy lawsuits. And what that means is that a builder could come and seek to build on a property at a higher density.
Any other questions at this time?
All right, Mr. Mayor, just one other thing. Before you go to the resolutions that are on the agenda and after the administrator and the engineer make their presentations, I'd like an opportunity just to summarize those three resolutions.
Okay, we'll do that just before we get to that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, again, we've been making good use of the time, I think, these last couple of weeks, and I guess I would ask Administrator Hoffman to kind of bring us and really the audience up to speed on some of the information we just have gotten in the last day or two, really.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back in November and December, the Township Committee and our residents had discussions about what were some of the best options available to come into compliance with the agreement for providing the opportunity to construct 74 affordable housing units on municipally owned property. Some of that discussion had to do with what were the costs for some of our municipal structures, and then what was the appraised value of some of those municipal structures. You may recall that there had been a report that had been done back in 2008 for this building, and that was the basis for a report that had been presented, I believe, in November. That report and that same concept have been updated, and the Township Committee had committed to looking at 4 options and providing costs for 4 options. Those 4 options were to renovate the existing police department building at 405 Southern Boulevard so that it would have a sally port that's required. It would have a total of 4 holding cells. They would have to be constructed on opposite sides of the building, and then to make improvements to that building. So we have obtained a cost estimate from an architect on what that would be. We've also obtained a cost estimate for what would be the cost to update this building at 58 Myersville Road for just the administrative uses that it currently has. And then we also have a cost update for updating this building and moving the police department here, constructing a sally port at the back of the building, and then the holding cells, and making this building workable for the police department as well as for the rest of the municipal operations outside of the DPW and the sewer treatment plant. And then the last option was a combined municipal and police department building that would be built down at Southern Boulevard. So to go through the costs, If we were to update the police department building, that cost would be $2,509,000, and that's for the constructing the new Sallyport, the jail cells, upgrading the electric, new roof, new windows, things of that nature. The cost to update this building for our continued use here without moving the police department in would be $4,773,000. If the township were to, and then the cost for combining the buildings, or combining the police department and the administrative staff here in this building, making the addition of the Sallyport and the holding cells, that cost would be $7,254,000. So I'd like to stress that the costs are one or the other. If you're going to update the police department as a standalone building, you would have to invest money in this building. And that cost is approximately the same amount. It's approximately $7.2 million. If you're going to do the work on this building, it's $7,254,000. To build a new combined building at 27,900 square feet would be $10,929,000. So those are the overall costs that are associated with renovation of the two buildings, renovation of this building for the police department, or to build a combined municipal building. And that report came in on Friday. It was reviewed over the weekend. There was a couple of tweaks that were made. And when we looked at that report versus the report from 2008, we made some strategic choices. And I'll ask our engineer to chime in with some of those strategic choices, because in 2008 we had talked about doing some more work on the outside of this building or on the grounds. We decided not to do that, but we tried to focus on making this building more energy efficient when we went through that. So John, if you had any other comments that you had wanted to add, please do so.
Sure. The cost estimates were prepared by a licensed architect. They did review the 2008 report. They did inspect both buildings, both the municipal building and the police building. And they did meet with the administrator to go through and discuss the township's current and future specific needs. When they went back to look at the 2008 report, the estimate is not just taking the number and adjusting for inflation. They actually looked at what was being proposed and looked at some of the items in the 2008 report was completed. There were site improvements done. There was work to the gym. There was other improvements. So one of the improvements was to construct new the Board of Education offices. And so there was quite a bit of work that was already done in the 2008 report. However, there was also items that over the last 10 years that were not included that needed to be looked at differently. For example, they were identifying just a roof repair versus at this point in time, 30 years old, the entire roof needs to be replaced versus just a repair. Other items was they had limited improvements to the HVAC system, but over the last 10 years, not just the HVAC systems on the roof themselves are becoming more unreliable, but the actual controls in the building itself has become unreliable. So there was quite a few items that were taken off of the 2008 report, but the others were added in because of just the infrastructure just getting older. More coincidence that the cost of renovating the municipal building and the police separately is about the same cost of combining them at this location. There are certain items in the cost estimate for the police building, such as a new roof or a new HVAC, site improvements. If you're not improving the police building, you don't have to do those improvements, and we're already in the initial cost estimate to renovate this building, that's already included. So there's certain items that are being taken out of that the building, but there's also increasing costs of combining the police and municipal building here because there's more more interior renovation that's required. So it was more of a give and take, and it just happened to come out that it's approximately the same cost of renovating them separately versus bringing them together. The level of the estimates are based on concept plans. They are not based on detailed architectural drawings for either facility. That was not prepared. Typically on they're more representative of concept level, where it's an approximation of the cost. Typically what's involved in renovation projects like that, the architect would be commissioned to start a design phase, and during, for example, during the 30% design submittal, they'll update cost estimates and possibly modify the design to accommodate to make sure it fits within the budget. That process goes through again at 60%, 90%, 100%. So there's a progression regarding finalizing the final cost associated with this type of improvement. But these numbers are in the level of order of magnitude for planning purposes that you know, the committee can use for just an overview of comparison purposes.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add, we're not finished. The Township Committee may recall that one of our residents had offered his assistance at the January 7th meeting to obtain costs for us. And I wanted the Township Committee to know that Mr. D'Amato has been very gracious. We took him up on his offer. He met with me on January 15th. He was able, there was a roofer that, there was an HVAC professional that came to take a look at our equipment and will provide an estimate that has not come in yet. But there was also a professional that came in to look at our windows, our 704 linear feet of 7-foot tall glass around the building, and we do have a proposal from that. It is being finalized. And then sometime next week, there will be a roofer that Mr. D'Amato has arranged to come visit the municipal building. So we will take those estimates, and we will analyze them like we're going to take a look at the information that's been provided on the 24th, and we will report back. But it's you know, this is a work in progress, but I'm happy that Mr. D'Amato was able to come forward and help us out and to give us you know, another option that we can compare costs through. So that's our report on the building.
Thank you. Any questions?
If we were to move the comma over or eliminate the comma in a personal situation, if any one of us, rather than facing a $4.77 million set of improvements for their home, perhaps some of us could be facing home improvements of $477,000. You can look at an old house and say, we need to renovate this, we need new windows, we need a new roof, we need a new driveway, we should probably shore up the replacement windows. A homeowner or any responsible property owner, unless you're really going for a 100% immediate overhaul, doesn't do every bit of homeowner improvements all at once. When Chatham Township looks at $4.77 million worth of improvements to our municipal building, I certainly hope that we are not going to come in and do them all at once. Rather, we can choose which the important ones are. Perhaps the roof comes first, because the roof is the overall protection of the building. Perhaps then we get around to the windows, perhaps then we get around to some other things. I would submit to anyone here that we're not going to do $4.7 million of improvements in the next year, the next 2 years, that we would chop these things off incrementally.
Well, what we're going to be doing is, as has been discussed in the past, we're putting together a matrix, and we're looking at the costs. But this was the you know, the higher level look that we were asked to do, and what is going to be done is going to be a policy decision of the Township Committee, and it's part of it's going to be driven by our affordable housing issues. There are options that we have, but there are decisions that we're evaluating. So John, did you have
Well-
something you had wanted to say?
Yeah, I think we just have to acknowledge that the building does need some substantial improvements. And for example, you know, I was here when the 2008 report was prepared, and for example, the roof estimate was about $100,000 in repairs. And I don't recall exactly what Tom Chiccarone said, but he's basically saying, I'm not going to spend $100,000, I'd rather wait a little longer and replace the whole roof. And so, but, you know, we've waited over 10 years, it's time to now replace the roof. So, you know, there are certain things that do need to be done. We do have leaks in the roof. We're way past the warranty for that. It's time. And the HVAC system, which is also a very substantial cost, it's time. It's failing. You know, we can't control the temperature anymore in the building. So, you know, there are certain things, and that doesn't add up to the 4.7, but there are some, you know, very substantial costs that do need to be budgeted for, do need to be implemented. And certainly there are always things that can be pushed off, such as, you know, are we renovating the concrete in the front of the building or certain other improvements? Yeah, they're getting old, but, you know, just because it's getting old doesn't necessarily mean you have to replace it, but not all the time. But there are components of this building that does need replacement, and that is something that the committee seriously has to look at, regardless.
And by the same token, we have those same issues with the police department building. So there's, we have gotten good value out of this building and out of the police department building. The police department building is 43 years old, and it, if you're going to put a sally port on it, you should be replacing the roof. The roof has exceeded its life expectancy, and we have 33 years out of this roof, and
So are we advocating for doing all of these improvements in the
No,
next
no.
2 years? Is
What-
that what I'm hearing, or
what
no?
you're- no,
Thank
what
you.
I am not advocating.
Thank you,
that.
because no
Yeah,
responsible
that's-
homeowner or
well,
property owner is going to do absolutely
that-
everything on their Christmas
you know,
list
that-
all at once.
That's a decision of the committee to move forward, but certainly if you ask me right now, what should we do? We got to fix the roof. We have to repair the HVAC system because they're failing. You know, and the windows are also important because we have a lot of windows, a double pane. You're seeing they've not broken, but, you know, there are issues with the windows. So those, you know, those are some of the key things. You know, do we have to redo a bathroom or redo a concrete or redo something?
If you give a
That's-
mouse a cookie,
that's
he's going to want a glass of milk.
discussion. That's
That's what we're saying here,
That is
right?
absolutely the committee's, you know, discretion on those items, absolutely. You know, you can break down all the improvements and break that down.
This is your money, folks.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, John, I just wanted to kind of differentiate between Christmas list items and repairs that are necessary that were identified 11 years ago or 12 years ago, and those same repairs need to be done in this year. So I'm not aware in going through any of this or what we requested of you that there was any Christmas wish items. I'm under the understanding that all of these things are repairs, not improvements. We're not changing this room, we're not adding rooms to this building, we're not dormering the entrance, we're not doing any of those things. We're not repairing the field that's been left, that's now no longer usable down here at the Mountain View field. We're not doing any of those things. These are not Christmas list items. These are actual repairs that need to be done to the building.
Yeah, I think they're, you know, Christmas list items, I think, you know, that's, you know, you have some basic things that, you know, a homeowner would do. If your roof is leaking, you're going to get your roof leak. If your heating is not working, you're going to get your heat fixed. Those are some fundamental things that need to be done. You know, in the 2008 report, you know, they talk about replacing some of the carpet, replacing finishes, you know, things of that nature. You know, that's discretionary. That's up to the committee to do things of those interior things that need to be, you know, upgraded or improved to that degree. But there are, you know, some very fundamental things that you know, the committee needs to resolve. You know, there's issues with the heating system, and there's issues with the roof. You're just, you know, can you wait another 5 years and do nothing? Yeah, you may get more. You're going to get more leaks for sure. And with the heating system, it's failing. It's just you can't control it anymore. So it's just something that, you know. And in fact, we did get an estimate from the New Jersey State contract, and it was over $400,000 to redo the controls and some of the equipment. That's not replacing the top. So, and those are things that, we do have to bring this to the committee to start addressing some of these fundamental improvements to the building. Are there things that can get cut back? Absolutely, you can cut. That's at the discretionary of the committee to say that you don't want to, redo a bathroom or redo a carpet or other finishes. Absolutely, but that's a discussion item thing. And this is just looking at when the 2008 report was done. It was it was a snapshot of the building of improving finishes, not just the major things. So it does have finishes inside.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, it's a helpful piece of the puzzle, but it is only a piece of the puzzle. So,
Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, I'll go to the next piece of the puzzle.
okay,
And the
please.
next piece of the puzzle has to do with the appraisals of two pieces of property. The Township Committee had asked that we go back and we do an appraisal of the police department, and we do an appraisal of some of the property there. So an appraisal was done of the police department building as well as 1 acre of land, because we were looking at the police department and saying, we're not going to do an appraisal of the whole property down there because there are other uses of that property, and part of that property was in the process of being subdivided. So what does our police department need to function? How much land does it need to be functionable on with the equipment that has to be stored on it, and then some of the ancillary services that are around it. So the police department, the land and the building were looked at for the appraisal. It was the police department building, and the land was 1 acre. So it's 1 acre where you can fit cars on it. You can fit the generator, but that's what it was appraised at. So the land value, the 1 acre land for the police department was valued at $1,307,000, and the building was valued at $334,000 because it's basically a municipal structure. It's 45 years old, and so it was valued as a municipal building with a commercial bent, and what would be the best use of that property with 1 acre, what else could you do with it? So the total value for the police department, land and structure, is $1,641,000. So that was the appraisal for that. Then we looked at
Could you give those numbers again, Bob? I lost you. So.
Sure. And then this is in a report that the Township Committee has received. But the total value for the police department, including the building and 1 acre, is $1,641,000. And it was so that was the total. Then we looked at the municipal building here. We looked at it for what is the highest and best use of the property. We have 11.16 acres here, and then the question was, what would be the highest and the best use and for the property? And the highest and best use, based on the surrounding area, would be to develop this for residential housing on a half acre. So then the question became, how many clean lots can be developed on this property based on the constraints, and what would that value be? And then, is there a value to the building? And the answer is that if you were selling this, the building would come down, so the building would have no value. So the highest and best use for this property would be that it's sold for housing, and you could build. There are 7 clean buildable lots on this property based on the constraints, and the value for the property would be $2,900,000. So that's with demolishing the building so that it has no value. The second way that it was looked at was what happens if the building is used for affordable housing, and we are keeping part of the property, and we're going to be conveying space for 98 parking spaces for this building. What would be the value? And we're going to be retaining the senior center, and we're going to be retaining the gym and the wrestling room for the residents, as well as the parking lot that's on the gym side of the building. So when we looked at that for the use, the building would have really no value because it's coming down to its foundation, but the scenario would be that the value of the property would be $1,138,000 based on building, keeping the foundation and then building 65 affordable housing units here. If it's scaled down, you would use a factor of $17,500 for the value of the property. So the property value would go down. And again, the structure would be demolished down to the foundation. Then we took a look at it a third time and to say, the building is here. What's the value of the building, and what would be the value of the land if it just stayed the way it is? So if it stayed the way it is, the value of the land, the 11.16 acres, is not being conveyed to anybody. It's being retained. The approximate value is $2 million. And then the value of the building, based on the square footage and based on its use and age and those items, is $4,913,000. So the combined value of the building as we sit here in it would be $6,913,000. So that was our theoretical analysis, and that's the appraisals that we have received. So.
Thank you very much, Bob. And that just came in, and really, those last numbers just arrived.
Well, yes, Mayor, they came, the reports came in on Friday. They were reviewed over the weekend. There were follow-up questions, and then this last analysis, yeah, it did come in. Actually, yeah, it did come in earlier today, based on our follow-up questions, because the numbers were adjusted based on municipal factors that had to be taken into account.
Okay. Well,
And again, these are ballpark numbers that are going to be finalized.
Is that information on the chat
we understand. That has not gone up yet.
Eventually.
Well, thank you. It's a lot to digest. We do want to get on to these next three resolutions and then the hearing of citizens. So, Albert, if you could take a minute to kind of walk us through those.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to repeat a little bit of what you and the clerk said. You've already adopted a resolution appointing an affordable housing agent. That resolution was on the consent agenda because it is a continuation of an existing contract with Piazza and Associates. Piazza has served the township, as both you and the clerk said, since 2010 with their primary purpose of administering the affordable housing units at Vernon Grove. So that's what's done. It is a routine resolution. The first resolution under the non-consent agenda is approval of a spending plan. That resolution is on non-consent, and the spending plan describes how the development fees that would be collected pursuant to the ordinance that was adopted last year would be used or spent. That spending plan, like the ordinance, has to be approved by the Superior Court. The third resolution is a resolution by dedication by rider, also on the non-consent agenda. Dedication by rider requires that the development fees collected be placed in a dedicated fund, in this case here known as an Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and may only be used for affordable housing purposes as described in the spending plan. So you, during the course of the year, will adopt several resolutions that are dedication by riders, because this is income that comes in, but it's to be used for a specific purpose. So you adopt a resolution dedicating it for that purpose and no other. The last resolution is an approval of intent to bond. That resolution is also on non-consent. And as you indicated, Mr. Mayor, because the township is using the 100% municipally sponsored affordable housing development of sites, the municipality has to commit to funding any shortfall in the construction costs of those developments. So the township would be responsible for that shortfall, and the resolution expresses an intent to make that commitment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Greg, could you take them one at a time?
Starting out, we have Resolution 2020-045, resolution of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, adopting a spending plan regarding the collection and distribution of funds for affordable housing from the Township Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Very good. Any discussion?
Albert, a question. It says the development fee ordinance establishes a trust that includes development fees, which the committee has already passed, payments from developers and other income. Does that refer to situations when a developer, so when Rosevale was built, if they don't have an affordable housing set aside, that some developers will put funds in a trust, in the affordable housing trust to be used by the town?
Essentially, yes, under certain circumstances, it's called a payment in lieu of, so it's a payment in lieu of building the unit. So there's a formula to establish what that payment is, and the developer would make a payment to the municipality in lieu of that unit, and that money's put in affordable housing trust fund. But what that means is the municipality has to find that unit.
Yes.
You get money, you don't get the unit, and you have to weigh what's more valuable, the money or the unit. And so that is a mechanism that can be used. And if you use it, then the money must go into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because it's to be used for a replacement for that lost unit.
So on the unmet need portion, where any future development, 15 to 20%, depending on what type of development, would have to be affordable housing, is this still an option for us? You know, if we wanted to manage the situation, that the developer could instead pay for the units that they don't build?
You have two mechanisms to address unmet need. One is an overlay zone at Fairmont Commons, and an overlay zone simply sits on the property. It doesn't change the underlying zoning. If that property owner wants to utilize that option under the zoning and build a denser development with affordable housing, the payment in lieu of would not occur. Because in order for the developer to exercise that option, the developer has to commit to produce the units.
Okay.
And the other option that you have is that municipal-wide 20% set-aside, or 15% in the case of rentals. That is only occurs when either the Board of Adjustment grants a use variance, or you rezone a property providing for 6 or more units to an acre. So again, that's an incentive to give a higher density to produce affordable housing, and that would be defeated by the payment in lieu of. So in those two instances, you would not receive a payment in lieu of. That language is in the spending plan and in the ordinance. In the event that occurs or that opportunity occurs, you don't have to go back and redo the ordinance or the spending plan.
Okay.
So an example of that, just so I can put it into real terms, and please tell me if I'm wrong, Madison had developed Rose Hall, which was a large unit building. They also had a community center built as part of that development, but there was no affordable housing developed as part of that. But they did get $2.1 million from the developer that went into their affordable housing trust fund. So that's what you're talking about.
That's a payment in lieu of. It goes into that fund, has to be used for affordable housing purposes to generate the units that are not constructed as a result of that development.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Greg, can we have their roll call?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Because I have found the whole process of the collection of developers' fees, and therefore the developers' fee ordinance fundamentally flawed, I'll be voting no.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Because this was a part of the settlement and the 3 years of negotiation that led to the settlement, and this is going to afford us the opportunity to hopefully get an extension. We want to abide by the settlement without the opportunity to redo the settlement. I'm going to vote yes, so that shows the court that we're looking to continue with the implementation of the settlement.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Albert's already given us a recap of resolution number 2. So Greg, could you read the title?
Yes, resolution of the Township of Chatham requesting permission for the dedication by rider for development fees required by the Fair Housing Act of 1985, NJSA 52:27D-301 et sec.
Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any comments? Very good. Greg, could you read the roll call?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
No.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
And Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And resolution number 47?
Resolution of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, of intent to fund spending plan shortfall.
Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
In a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Greg?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
And Mayor Kelly.
Yes. Thank you, Greg. Okay, we have come to our second hearing of citizens. Just as with the first one, if you, this is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, please come to the microphone and please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less if possible. Thank you very much.
And for those who are here to speak for the first time, just a general reminder to give your name and address.
Richard Matlaga, 36 Dale Drive. And it's not really a question. I hope this doesn't use up my 5 minutes. But on the agenda, it said affordable housing status update. Now, there was motions filed, so there's all the property that many of us don't have a clue what's going on with. So where do we stand with the River Road? Where do we stand with all of that as far as where are you on your thought process?
Okay. I think we are moving forward. We are gathering information. We are trying to share the information as it comes in. We are not prepared to start narrowing down options. I think that there's really nothing definitive to really say because we don't have anything definitive at this end. So We are moving forward. We expect to hear from the judge by the middle of that hearing date on February that's going to tell us how much of an extension we have, if any, and that will determine how, the timing of us having to move forward.
So there's no update, okay. Then, and maybe Mr. Cruz could clarify this. The comeback from the court with the special master, you're saying that they are going to suspend the builder's remedy, and it postpones Dixie Dale, suspends the builder's remedy. Am I interpreting that correctly in saying, should that occur, a developer can come in and say the Dixie Dale spot is, because that's the major land, it's either there or Noe Pond. If they do Dixie Dale, they could say, I'm going to build a higher density, and that will trump whatever plans we have?
Albert, if you can.
Well, Mr. Mayor, one of the difficulties in answering these questions is that we're in the middle of litigation. Let me finish. And that is, it's unfair to begin to speculate about what may occur, and I haven't even formulated my response yet to what the fair share housing cross motion is. So what I will clarify, though, is you said suspend builder's remedy. The relief requested by fair share is to remove the temporary immunity against builder's remedy lawsuits. So the township would lose that. The cross motion also speaks to the to staying or preventing the approvals for Dixie Dale to take effect. So if that combination occurs, then Dixie Dale or the developer for Dixie Dale or another developer could seek to utilize that property for a higher density.
Okay, so that would be the risk of the rolling of the dice.
I'm just reciting to you what the cross motion is.
I mean, just to cover builder's remedy in general for anybody who's new here, the concept isn't just the large, lots like Noe and Dixie Dale. If, I believe Albert had explained, it was 0.3 acres. So if somebody has a 0.3 acre lot next to you, then they could potentially sell to a developer, and when you do not have builder's remedy immunity, they're controlling the zone. The control of the zoning moves into onto their side instead of where it belongs here in the township. We have control of our zoning, but if you don't have immunity from builder's remedy, if you lose that and you're subject to builder's remedy, then they can force zoning issues. So that's where on small properties you could wind up with dense units. And so a 0.83, let's say it's an acre that's right next to you, they could put 6 units of townhomes on an acre of property right next to you. I believe they could put 12 units on 1 acre.
Well, again, I don't want to get into the speculation
Yeah,
of
just
what
to
occurred.
explain,
The concept being is that if you lose temporary immunity, you're exposed to a higher density development, and I don't really want to speculate about the size or things of that nature, but just that's the consequence of losing your immunity is the township no longer is able to control its zoning. And that's part of what the relief requested is to have the special master or an implementing master that you cannot act without that individual's permission.
Thank you, Alan.
But they're saying, what the Fair Share Housing is saying is that they want to take a little more control over this process. I think what you said about the special master would select the sites.
That's part of the relief being requested, yes.
Okay. Then just very quick, I know you didn't put on the goals and objectives when we discussed and I don't know if the public has a chance to comment on the goals and objectives. You talk about a 30-year debt plan. you know that all of this affordable housing stuff expires in 30 years. And, you know, there's just, you talked about balloon payments, so it would be nice to, when we see that, and also when you communicate that on the website, that it's something that we could sort of understand, just doesn't look like a maze of numbers. We could just sort of see how that flows.
That's a good point. I think one of the benefits of putting it off would be to get it up on the website so that everybody can see it before it comes back around for a vote. That's,
And then, and you know, I've always complained about the parking at the skate park and that development. So I can't let that go without saying something now. So during your goals and objectives, you talked about management of your facilities, and you highlighted the need for a protective garage at the Department of Public Works. And here we're taking space or congesting that space there. So it's just long-term planning, and I just ask that you give consideration to that, and keep in mind that the gun range is not a pistol range. They fire big guns there. And that's it. Thank you.
Hi, Sarah Fechner, Rolling Hill Drive. I just wanted to make sure I understand a couple of facts about the police station, because it seems to be coming at the same time that affordable housing is coming to a head. So, and perhaps we're trying to solve that problem at the same time. Is it true that we are out of compliance by not having a Sally Port with the New Jersey Department of Corrections?
yes, their standards require a Sally Port.
Okay. So it's not really a choice.
Mr. Mayor, if
Yeah.
just to be precise, we have a waiver through October of 2021.
Well, that was my next
and
question.
And then we will be out of compliance.
Right. So as of 2021, we may no longer house any prisoners that we have here in the township. If we do not do these police station upgrades, not even upgrades, but getting them to code. So it's not really like putting in new curtains and rugs. We have no choice. If we want to have, we don't want to have prisoners, but if we have to have prisoners here in 2021, we won't be able to unless we do this necessary funding. Also, did
Bob,
we...
is that accurate, or do we know?
We have asked for a waiver after 2021. We have not received it. We have
Right.
not received a response from the Department of Corrections. So if we don't get the waiver, part of what you're saying would be theoretically correct.
Okay.
And we'd like to call them detainees at the moment.
I know, sorry. And I hope we don't have any. But is it also true that we have gone to other towns because they have all brought their police buildings up to code, and they have rejected taking any of our detainees?
I'm not sure that that's accurate. What I
Okay.
will say is that the police chiefs in prior years have looked at upgrading police departments in the area. They also looked at having a regional holding area. And so that was looked at probably in 2015. And at the time, it was not workable because each municipality that was sending a detainee there would have to leave an officer there. So
Right.
you're taking people off the road and you're leaving them out of your jurisdiction. So that was looked at, and it was more cost-effective to make improvements to local police department structures at the time, and so that we could have officers back on the road.
Plus
And
they,
there
oh,
are,
sorry.
sorry. And people look to the county for saying, let's bring our detainees to the county. That's not always an option, and Morris County will be accepting prisoners from Sussex County, so that becomes less and less of an option now. So we have less and less choices, but our police chiefs are are going to be looking at this again and seeing what can be done.
Okay. I just wanted to point out that it does seem the police station is something that we have to do. We're not choosing to do it, and we're also trying to dovetail it somehow into the affordable housing situation. And I'm sorry that our new members had to inherit this. So good luck.
Thank you.
Hi, Matt Kahn, Country Club Drive. So a couple questions, and then I want to read something about Builder's Remedy. So on the, is there any update on the DEP waiver for the skate park police station site?
No, nothing to update there.
Okay. I know that you got a favorable response from them. Is there any sense of what timing would look like of actually getting that, should it be needed or requested?
My understanding is that it's kind of a creature of state bureaucracy, and it takes a long time. Exactly how long, I don't know if John or
Yeah,
Bob.
I'll just say that the current status is we had nothing more than a concept hearing with the DEP. There's no application filed. This is, nothing is happening at the moment. We've
Right.
not filed any other action. Typically this permit does take time, and it'll probably take up to a year before the DEP actually approves it once it's submitted.
So even if that were a favorable response, it may not and probably wouldn't dovetail with timing of the court process. Based on the even 90 or 120 days of extension.
It's two separate things. I think you're talking about what is accomplished during that 90, 120 days in terms of the implementation and identifying a site or sites.
Well, but the problem, sorry to interrupt, but the problem would be that to then identify on the predication, you get the waiver only for it to either be tripped up or not come through or take longer, could be an issue.
That would be something that the special master would evaluate and the court would evaluate
Right.
as to whether or not it's a viable site.
Right. With regards to the appraisal and the cost estimate to update the police station, so, and obviously we haven't reviewed the numbers on either of those estimates, but the police station was appraised, the building, at $330,000, but the cost to update it was $2.4 million? Is that right?
I think that at this point, we have the same numbers that you have, and we're kind of trying to make sense out of them ourselves.
Okay. That would be something to watch out for as to how that was analyzed. So with regards to Builder's Remedy, I'm of the personal belief that Builder's Remedy, and there's some residents in town that I've heard over the course of these meetings that would promote the notion of walking away from the settlement agreement. And I vehemently believe that that would be the absolute wrong decision if it was even being considered or contemplated by the committee. The comments that were made about what it actually entails and what it means, I'm certainly very aware of. And so the thought of losing control of our zoning, where it goes, how much goes there, the density, is should be an absolute non-starter, and I think should not be contemplated at all. Even the risk of going for the extension and the game that we're playing there, I would personally promote a swift resolution should it be dictated by the court. And so to that point, just the last thing I wanted to do is read a memo that was provided by the planning board attorney for Florham Park, outlining their affordable housing situation. Just a few excerpts just to give the flavor of Builder's Remedy and what could happen and what has happened. And this is a town right next door, so could very well happen and would happen to us if we went down that road. If a developer proves that a municipality is non-compliant with its fair share obligation, it is awarded a Builder's Remedy. A Builder's Remedy provides the developer with court-ordered zoning and density for multifamily housing without municipal oversight that is usually provided under the planning and/or zoning board application process. In other words, when municipalities are subject to Builder's Remedy, they lose control of their ability to determine their own zoning. Under the builder's remedy, the developer gets a density bonus so long as it is willing to set aside approximately 20% of the total units as affordable units, which was reflected by committee member Ewald. Going on, the court also afforded towns with some protection from builder's remedy lawsuits while fair share obligations were determined. But such protection was contingent on a town acting in good faith, which goes back to the steps we take here and what we say in these meetings, showing the court and Fair Share Housing that we are actually acting in good faith to honor the settlement agreement that was entered into in December of 2018. The borough's expert, this is for Florham Park, estimated obligation for Florham Park's third round obligation to be approximately 624 affordable units. While this number may seem high, Fair Share Housing Center's expert claimed that the borough's actual obligation was 824 units, 200 units more. Under the builder's remedy, if Fair Share Housing's number was accepted by the court, Florham Park could have been vulnerable for up to 4,100 total units. Meanwhile, several developers and property owners in Florham Park filed motions to participate in Florham Park's declaratory judgment action and attempted to obtain a builder's remedy so that they could develop their properties with high-density multifamily housing. Thankfully, the court did not award any developer in Florham Park with a builder's remedy due to the borough's historical good faith participation in this process with COA. I think that's very important to understand. Nevertheless, the court did permit several of these developers and property owners to participate in the case. Finally, in January 2017, the mayor and council authorized the execution of the settlement agreement, just as we did in December of 2018. The decision to settle was influenced by the fact that Brunswick, which opted to proceed to trial, was saddled by the trial court with an enormous obligation of approximately 1,500 units, which was well in excess of what the municipal expert had estimated its obligation to be. This is proof positive, and this is just one case. This has happened all over New Jersey. What can happen when you walk away from a settlement agreement and you don't act in good faith? So I commend the committee for doing everything they can to come to a fair and equitable resolution, which is, I think, supported by all residents. But the notion of walking away from the agreement and triggering builder's remedy and just rolling the dice to see what happens cannot be permitted. It would be the absolute worst case for this town. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, as a point of clarification, Mr. Khan raised some valid points, but I would like to point out that with the appraisal of the police department building, it was looked at, it was inspected by the appraiser, and it was looked at, and it's valued based on being 46 years old and having been occupied for basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just at its current, the current state of usefulness, seediness, what's needed. So your point is well taken, but when you dive into it a little deeper, there are reasons. So I just wanted to make sure that you know, that came out because of the use of the building and the type of use that it's had over time. But thank you for bringing that up.
And I guess I just thank you very much for reading that. The only thing I'd object to is the word "the game" we're playing on the extension. I mean, it's very serious. We picked that time because we thought we needed that time in order to do our jobs most effectively.
Or use the words.
And certainly, even some of the actions we're taking tonight, the 3 resolutions that we adopted, are really further indications of what we think is our good faith and moving forward to a solution, even though there are a lot of unanswered questions out there.
Good evening, everyone. My name is William Kolb. I live with my wife on Sandy Hill Road. I'd first like to thank Engineer Rushka for his comment earlier, which gave me great satisfaction and solace when talking about the walkways. He made a comment about just because it's old doesn't mean it needs to be replaced. So thank you for that. Secondly, the committee, I do not envy you your decision. This is going to be a difficult decision, I understand that, and I appreciate the work you're doing to come to an agreement. I think it would be easy if we about asked everyone here, where should the affordable housing units go? We'd get unanimous agreement. In fact, if we went out to every citizen, we'd have unanimous agreement. The answer would be, not by me. But that's not the case. We don't have that option. The township is big. People up here say, well, put it down there. People over here say, put it out there. Everybody has a solution, but it's not a good one. And it's human nature to say, I don't want it in my backyard. We're going to have it in our backyard. That's a fact. And I agree with what Ted said earlier. You have to make a decision and move this forward. Kicking it down the road, not that this committee is doing that, but that has been done in the past. I don't think that's tolerable. I think that serves no one's purpose. So I understand that there are 24 units going in on Southern Boulevard. I think that's a fact. So the question I think that remains is, where did the other 74 go? And I think they should go in the township somewhere, but not all in one place. We all share with all the benefits of Chatham Township, and I think we have to share in some of the difficulties of Chatham Township as well. So that's my position. Don't put everything in one place. Spread the wealth and let us get on with our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. Jackie Muncy, Rolling Hill Drive. I just have a question in relation to the police station and the gun range, right? So if you move everything over here, the gun range stays there, correct?
Yes.
And the gun range is used by multiple towns, not just Chatham?
I believe that's true, yes.
Yes, it's used
Okay.
for recertification purposes for multiple agencies.
Okay, so if you move all of the units there, and then you have a gun range right next door for 100 units, how's that going to work?
The same as it would for 24 units.
I know, but there's more units there. I mean, I'm talking about in terms of proximity of, I mean, I hear the guns
We
all
hear
day
the
long
guns.
on Rolling Hill. It's constant, right? So, and I live further down the road, right? So 24 versus 100, so it's staying there?
It's staying there. That site couldn't accommodate 100 units in its best and highest capacity unless you cleared everything off of it, so that can't happen there.
Okay.
But yes, residents who currently enjoy hearing the
Yes, it's
gun range,
lovely.
having been a tennis player at Noe Pond and having to apologize to everybody when they hit their shot straight up in the air because guns were going off.
Okay.
Yes, it's staying there.
Okay, thank you.
David Workman, 19 Susan Drive. I have a couple questions. How big is the police station, square footage-wise? Approximately.
The police station is 6,589 square feet.
Okay. Has anybody discussed, I didn't know that multiple municipalities use the gun range. Is there any chance the gun range could ever be relocated to a less populous place?
Not unless it went indoors someplace, but the answer is no.
Why?
Because there's no other place in the township where
I don't
they
mean
can
in the
move it.
township. I mean just some more rural area that people wouldn't hear it wherever they are. You know, that lady heard them right from her house. I mean, I'm just asking.
You know, it's there now. It's
I understand.
It's a absolutely important part of the police retraining.
Mhm.
You know, we don't want police officers less than adequately trained on that.
I'm not saying that for a moment.
You know, I think that it's an important asset, and at this point, that's the best place for it.
Right, but we're basically shouldering that for multiple, officials. I'm just saying there's got to be land somewhere less populous, and I don't know if anybody's looked at it.
Mr. Mayor, we're primarily shouldering it for our police department so that they can qualify. We do allow other police departments to qualify on it, and they in turn allow our police departments to do things in their buildings. But to answer the question of Mr. Workman, the answer is we have not taken a look at other locations for an outdoor gun range or anything else of that nature. And it's that might be something in the future, but there's nothing on the horizon to take a look at that right now.
Okay, just a thought.
I don't think it's an unreasonable request. I think that if other police agencies, I think as well as state agencies can also recertify there as well. And we've had this in our town for 20-plus years. It's not an unreasonable request to ask somebody else to take that on.
Okay, I mean, these type of things are put before people build homes. So as you get more populous, these things can be relocated. Ms. Mayor, I heard you said something before that you're still gathering information, right? So we can't hear about the other 4 locations. And that mid-February, we're going to hear from a judge as to if he is allowing us more time. And if I'm misquoting anything, please correct me. Is that correct?
Sounds correct.
And this is what I've said for the past 2 months. We don't have time. So how do we not have a report on these other potential alternatives? And I understand the good faith that Matt said. Believe me, nobody wants to get, well, it's not even, affordable housing is here. That's not the point. It has to just be, done correctly. But people had a groundswell because we feel we got hit over the head with this. Agreements were made, that it was going to be done here, but nobody in the town really knew what was going on. So over the past 60, 90 days, you now have a lot of people, trying to understand this. So I just don't, if in mid-February the judge says, no, we don't have an answer on those 4 other sites. So as I've said in the past, I'll say much calmer, we need answers, and we need them yesterday.
I know that's your position, Mr. Workman, but I think
What's your position then?
What I think has been a position that we have heard from many other people in the community is that they want a fact-based, carefully thought-out solution that is best for the long-term future of the township.
So do I.
We're trying to balance those 2 necessities. You're right, time is short, but facts are necessary. So we are working our best to try to balance those 2 facts.
You want to say something? Go right ahead.
There are so many factors that none of you see that are players in the decision. So if I could unilaterally say, I'm going to build 10 units here, or 3 units here, or 4 units here, for us to make that decision, that would be very easy. The problem is that we can't do that. We have to contact builders who might be willing to build a smaller site or a more dense site or whatever site that we ask them to do. In the summer, we went out to 5 builders with the land that we had. We only had 2 come back in, and these are all people who develop affordable housing. That's their specialty. So then we were working with the 2, and then 1 has not come back into the picture again, so now we're down to working with 1. And then with another, possibly looking at some other solutions. So as we go through this process and another parcel of land we might want to look at, but that requires looking at that piece and then having the builder look at that piece, or this happens and that happens. There is so much going on with a bunch of different solutions. Again, listening to what people have said, less density, multiple sites, looking at different solutions for this site, looking at different solutions for Southern Boulevard. And included in that are different ideas that we may bring to the Fair Share Housing Center, and we have to get them on board, or different ideas that we may be presenting to the judge when we meet with the judge. So there's just a bunch of things all going around, and some of them are interdependent on builders or planners or other things that we just don't have a lot of control, or as much as we're pushing, because we want to get this done too, and we want to get it done right, and we want to get it done strategically. It's very tough. We didn't even get some of these numbers until this afternoon.
I realize everything you said, and I do understand it fairly well. And let me just say one thing, Mayor. Just because I said I wanted an answer, it'd be nice to have an answer yesterday, doesn't mean I don't want a really well thought out, educated answer.
Okay.
We just don't have time. And we're talking about doing this in good faith, as Matt said. Good faith is, I think, what everybody in this community is trying to understand right now, because we've only known about this for a few months. So the idea of not acting in good faith is not really something that the community is guilty of. And I'm not saying anybody here is, but as everybody's talked about pushing it down the road, we're getting hit over the head with this. So from a good faith point of view, I would hope the court understands that we just found out. And we're just trying to reconcile this and come up with an understanding here of what to do that's fair for all.
I agree with that part. Thank you.
Okay, so my question is, in 2 weeks, or approximately that, the judge may give us more time or may not. But we don't have answers yet. And I think I want the right answers, but we have to explore the various sites. You made an agreement on this site. And as Matt said, if you break this agreement, that kind of shows we're not acting in good faith. Matt, I disagree with that part because we got hit over the head. But I'm not saying ultimately it doesn't happen here. I'm just saying that if there were other alternatives, they truly need to be explored, well thought out, but they need to be done right away.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Mike Stancampiano, Myersville Road. One question I have is, have we considered building a second story on top of the existing building, keeping it for municipality, but putting 20, 24, I don't know, whatever the foundation maybe could support here, but putting a second story here to accommodate some affordable housing instead of the entire building? You know, I just speaking for myself, I live across the street. I don't want a 3-story, 65-unit building. But if you came back and told me we're going to build maybe one additional story, keep the building for its current purposes, but put 20 apartments upstairs, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I don't know if any of my neighbors that live close by would, but I didn't know if that was an option that was being considered. Could we build on top of this building? We're tearing off the roof, taking apart all the windows. We're going to gut this building. Why we're doing that? Why not put another story on top?
We are certainly exploring portions of what you say. You know, it's there is a lot of moving parts, and we're exploring.
Is that so? That is an option. That is an option.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You know, we need a roof.
Hi, Jen McNally, Ferndale Road. Just a few quick questions, and it might be a variety of folks being able to answer. Just in the beginning of the meeting, we mentioned there was some acreage that was bought by the power utility over in Green Village. Was that something, acreage here? I don't know where it is. I'm not familiar with it. I don't know the specifications on it. Was that something that would have been part of a potential affordable housing property that we could have purchased as a township? Okay.
It's the property that's located right behind the fire department, the Green Village Fire Department.
Okay.
It is not really a viable site for low-income housing because all of that area is served by, it's outside our sewer service area.
Okay.
So that would be a negative to it.
Okay, all right, just out of curiosity, as we mentioned scarcity of land and other things, it's sort of just to get that settled. I guess I have a question that maybe the attorney can answer, Mr. Cruz. So I guess in the court settlement, it seems as if the court came back at us sort of much more stringently than we maybe anticipated. Did they outline specific reasons of what made them conclude with how they came back at us? Like, did they outline? I just was hard to understand, paying attention to it. What were their reasons? Did they outline anything very specifically about what their reasoning was to come back at us in that way?
If I could step in there, it's tough to ask our attorney to summarize the other attorney's case. I don't know if you want to, but basically that case is up on our website.
It is.
You can if you go to government button and then the affordable housing button, just go right down. There's a numbered list of court actions, and the highest numbers are the 5 motions that the Fair Share Housing Center filed, and you can get their exact words.
Okay, great. And then I guess my other question is, in finishing up, and I'll be within my 5 minutes, it's amazing. We talked about here, we're going to spend money. We're going to spend money to potentially improve the buildings here. We're going to spend money to do different things around here. The other things is that we have all these projects here in the township itself. We haven't spent any money on the building. We haven't spent any money on the police station. We ran out of money to repave our streets over Rolling Hill. There are 5 streets at the end of the year. We ran out of money to repave. The whole tennis team came here, when the boys and girls teams came here and asked, when are we going to fix the tennis courts? Right? The tennis courts have never been maintained. We had the whole tennis team come. A dad makes court signs with the numbers because we don't have any court numbers. The kids said they went to rich towns in New Jersey, they went to poor towns in New Jersey. We had the worst courts. So I come to this meeting tonight and I hear, we need a new roof. We need all these things to be done. What have we been doing? Where the tennis courts, right? I mean, to hear that we ran out of money to repave my road last year, like 6 or 7 roads in my neighborhood. The tennis courts, these kids came in, our tennis courts in disrepair. The bathrooms are locked at Shumpike Park still, right? What if we're not fixing the roof here? Just out of curiosity, how do we figure out, like, what is the list, right? What is the list to get done? I'm just going to throw that out there,
That is one of our goals and objectives.
I missed that meeting. It was the one meeting I missed, right? It's the most important one, right?
Yes, it's I think that we want. Well, Bob, you.
After you, Mr. Mayor, then I'll say something.
I think that we certainly have been spending money on different things. We pave roads every summer. We've made a major reinvestment in Colony Pool.
I agree.
You can go down the list on expenditures, and you certainly can have different opinions on what the priorities might have been, or could have been, or should have been. I think that that was the decision that was made over the time, and we're going to be making decisions this year going forward on what the priorities are.
I think those decisions, some of those decisions or lack of decisions, have really cost us, and now I think we're really finding out, to have not serviced the tennis courts in 13 years, the amount of money we would have spent year 5 versus year 13 is an astronomical difference. It's the same thing with this building, right? The roof. Now the roof is, let's take the whole roof off instead of fixing these things that they came along. It's very frustrating to sit here and hear all these bits and pieces when we have all these smaller projects too that have now become much bigger projects, just due to not be having a punch list, right? You have a punch list at your house. Where is our punch list, all around town? So that was my question. I'm in my time limit, Greg. Isn't that exciting? Right? See? All right. Thank you. Thanks.
I just wanted to mention too that I know it's not a popular topic, and we were actually very lonely at our meeting on the 16th because I think only a couple people showed up. But it was an important meeting because we were going through a new process, a goal planning process, and aligning goals with objectives, and underneath objectives were going to come expenses, and underneath that was going to become a multi-departmental effort to identify short and long-term costs, so 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, so that we're not in the situation where we have an estimate to make repairs or improvements to a building from 12 years ago, and then now we're at the end of its lifetime and controls aren't working and heaters aren't working and things aren't working, and now we have to. So it wasn't a sexy meeting, but it was a necessary meeting, and it's going to get us on that path of planning for small things like sprinklers at Colony Pool that were broken for 3 years, that we can plan for and have money for, or our tennis courts that haven't been maintained, or larger items such as a 43-year-old roof on the police building or the roof here, that will actually be able to plan and budget for those items in the future. So next time we have our goals and objectives meetings, please come.
Paul Payton, 67 Candace Lane, and I just wanted to thank you guys first. I know a whole bucket of slop has been piled upon the committee, and you guys walked into something, and you've actually managed to try to pick it up and make it work, which we really appreciate. I'm sure nobody wants to deal with the fair housing master, or whatever the proper name is. It's sort of like a consultant comes into your company, you know, somebody who doesn't know what you do and is going to tell you how anyway. If we can avoid that, that would be wonderful. So am I correct in listening, and I realize there are a ton of moving parts, most of which I can't see. Okay, so I acknowledge this out front. So am I correct that if we moved the police department into this building, the cost would be about the same as trying to remake that building and remake this building separately?
Yes.
And if that cost is the same, why is there a question? Let's bring them here. Just my opinion. With that said, does that preclude putting affordable housing units of some number on this property as well? Could the police, the municipal building, and affordable housing exist in this piece of property?
Albert, legally, can we mix those uses, or?
You know, Mr. Mayor, it's more of a planning issue. There are safety issues that have to be thought about, but it's more of a planning issue. How do you use the 11.16 acres? There are buffers and things that have to happen, but you know, this is something that it's a valid question from Mr. Patton, but it's something that really needs to be thought about before it can be answered.
Okay, I just wanted to, throw it out there into the mix. I mean, I hear a variety of things, some of which might be incorporated multiply, like an additional story on at least some of this building. Hopefully, as the previous gentleman said, if we can disperse the units around the town, I think that's a far better move. I don't know what other properties are in consideration, and I'm grateful you guys are moving ahead with this, and I'm glad I'm not sitting behind that desk. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Costa Koulougianis. I live in 99 Susan. So, I guess my general question is, I think most of us here, want to hear a little bit more about affordable housing, but, what can you tell us? What can you tell us about all these steps that you have been taking over the last few weeks, over the last few months? Can you give us any update? I mean, really, this is what we're all dying for. I think the criticism that the prior committee came under was the lack of transparency. And we talked about this, ad nauseum over the last few months. We're looking for some transparency now. We get it that you don't have all the answers, and there's still data are still coming in, by the day, it sounds like. So I applaud you for doing that. But it would be, and we need something, or can we have something? And if we can't, and it doesn't have to be tonight, but my point is, when can we expect to have, some sort of a summary or just some sort of update about, these are the options that we are still considering, and, just the different permutations, within. That's all we care about.
Yeah. No, we definitely appreciate the need to get that information out there and sympathize with the reaction you're describing. I think that in doing what we're doing today is we are trying to be more transparent rather than less. I mean, rather than hang on to this kind of fragmentary information, and wait until it results in a decision and then present it. We're trying not to do that. We're trying to keep the public posted on where we are. I don't think that we are at a point where we can really go further than we have right now. There just is, the information is not there. So we certainly are not far away. I mean, you've heard the court timelines that we are going to have to go into court to face, but exactly when, we probably will know better in about 2 weeks.
We just don't want to run the risk of saying, you know what, we came up with this great idea, and not have fair share housing agree to it, and not have the property come through, or not have something, that's still all things that we don't have answers on. So while we may have 60% of a solution for a particular site, and 70% on another site, and 40% on another site, and we may be at 5% on another site, we simply just don't have enough information to be able to come back to you and say, you know what, here's our A, B, C, and D option, and this is what we're going to do. Because what we wouldn't want to have come back is, you know what, you said B, we like B, and then have somebody come back and say, well, guess what? Fair share housing didn't like it.
Yeah, no, I get that, and that's what happened
So it's
starting in
frustrating,
November.
And I know you're frustrated, and we're frustrated. We spent 4 hours yesterday in executive session going through all of this, and some of these numbers we didn't even have. So we were trying to parse through all of the information that had come in. We were trying to parse through this information that came in. I still have questions on this, which is if a building is only valued at $400 and something thousand and it requires $2.5 million worth of repairs, and what does that mean? What does that do to the building? So I still have some questions on this information that's coming in. So I totally understand your frustration.
But can you tell me that you're farther along today than you were a week ago, than you were a month ago?
Oh, absolutely.
And if the court told you tomorrow, if the court told you in 2 weeks that you have to make a decision, that we would be able to be transparent about it's a collective we, about what the options are, and then to make a decision, an informed decision in a timely manner. I mean, I have fears that we'll be, caught with our pants down again in 2 weeks' time or a month's time. And I don't know. I mean, transparency is the biggest thing that we're asking for.
We are making good progress, and I think that, one of the things we are working hard to do is to convince the court that we are moving forward in good faith. And I think that, not only do we want to answer the public's questions, but we want to definitely make progress so that we can get that time to make the best decision for the whole future of the town.
But I'll say it again. A lot of us came here tonight looking for this update. I rushed out of work to be here, I mean, as many of us did, looking for this update. And it's not tonight, and I get it. But when do you think it'll be? Will it be in 2 weeks' time? Will it be in a month's time? I mean, we need something. Do you have an answer for me? I mean, even a ballpark?
I think the times you mentioned, we will be making good progress in that time. Now, whether we've got the answer or not depends on some things that are outside of our control.
As the person who, a month ago was on that side, I can appreciate your frustration. I can promise you in every single meeting, I say to the question, when can we tell the residents? What can we tell the residents? Because I feel your frustration. But it would be unfair to put out this piecemeal information, and it's moving parts, and we could share something and then it just collapses. So, but there is a lot of work going on behind the scenes to move things forward.
So at a very basic level, so we've talked about spreading the wealth. That's everyone's dream. If we could put some here, some there, some there. Is that even realistic? I mean, if I'm a builder, I don't want that, of course, right? So I'm sure the people that you're dealing with, the folks that you're dealing with, or the one developer that you're dealing with, probably doesn't find that option so appealing. Is that a basic question? Is that off the table? I mean, does it have to be a single site solution, or is it still possible that we may have a multi-site solution to these last, 60, 70 units, whatever it may be?
I think we've heard the message loud and clear that the public wants, does not want a single site solution. So
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, as a point of clarification, I think it's important to note that there are two developers that are in the mix, and so we are working, and you know, that's basically all we can say, that you know, there are two developers, and the Township Committee has, you know, has heard, and they are doing yeoman's work behind the scenes, or you know, during the day, just to look and make sure that we're evaluating everything, that where possible there's balance. And I don't know what else to say, but you know, I can also let our residents know that after our meetings, we have received calls and emails from people in Trenton that have questions about what has occurred at our meetings, and we also have to be cognizant of that what is said here not only is heard by our residents, but it's heard by people in other counties in the state that have an impact on our final decision. So sorry for being clipped about that, but that's important to know also.
Hi, King Jang from Warwick Road. I'll be quick. Not to be too cute with words, but I think, you know, we're all looking for the right answer. I think the wrong answer at the right time would be better than the right answer at the wrong time. And I just want to remind everybody that the downside of the wrong answer may cost dollars. The downside of the wrong time sounds like irreversible, you know, consequences that we can't go back on. So I just want to remind you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, Jake Stowicki from Johnson Drive. Just want to reiterate that I think moving the police station over here is a good idea from a cost perspective, and I appreciate Ms. Schwartz's comments on the Christmas list. Like anybody's home, I think you prioritize what needs to get done, and the roof always starts first. Additionally, my home is 41 years old, so I don't consider that lifespan expired yet. I think it's got a good amount of time. This building's 43 years old. I think she's got good bones, and I think we could look to build upon that. I also speak upon maybe putting the police station on the second floor, or vice versa, and then maybe affordable housing on the other side. And if it can happen, if we're doing 24 units over near the skate park, right next to the police station, why wouldn't we be able to do that over here? Is food for thought. I also want to just, one other comment, Myersville Road doesn't have good sidewalks at all, doesn't have wide roads, bus traffic. So putting 74 units here, and I heard 98 parking spots earlier, that scares me as a resident of Johnson Drive. That's 100 cars on the road at any given time. And the last thing is, I do work in the construction industry. It's all about money. If you tell a builder, we will pay you more to build on 3 separate sites, he will do it. That's, I mean, they're going to do that. And the last thing I'll say, thank you. And the last thing I'll say, again, the sewer, I know there's a one on River Road. It's money. It's 30 years. We take out mortgages for millions and millions of dollars on our homes over 30 years. Why can't the township look at it like that? If it's a $2 million cost to extend the sewer to there, to spread the wealth across the community, let's look at that over a 30-year time frame. It's pennies on the dollar year over year. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Citron, Mountain View Road. It appears that the only finite development we have is the 3-story building here.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch
The
that.
3-story proposal that we have at this facility, right?
Is what?
Is the only finite bid we have from a developer.
No, I think that that's not true.
Okay. What else do we have?
You know, I made some introductory comments tonight that, you know, that we're not at the point where we can drill down and discuss individual sites, and that still holds.
Okay. Could we be forced, since we only have one on record, in the lawsuit, if it went the wrong way, to build the 3-story building here that nobody wants?
Hypothetically, if we lose control of our zoning ordinance, we lose control of our zoning ordinance, and that decision will be made by the court and the court master, and presumably anything is possible.
Okay. So
Mr.
if
Mayor,
nobody in the town wants that.
If I may, the only thing that's locked in is that we have 24 units at Arbor Green. That's a definite. So I believe, that's the one thing that we have that's cast, I will say cast in stone. I mean, that's been approved.
Well, you have a vote. You voted in favor of the building, correct? On record.
Yes, we did.
Right.
The one site that was approved by the majority of the committee was building here.
Correct.
Mr. Citron, that's what you're saying.
Okay.
And the other thing that I believe you're saying is that if the clock runs out and the sands of time have all dripped to the bottom of the timer, that the one thing we have is proposals for building here.
That's correct.
That's what I believe you're saying.
And if you listen to the community, that's the one thing that everybody's against.
Absolutely.
This 3-story albatross.
So what we're actually trying to do is move away from the single site solution that seems to be the one proposal. Everybody here has been
Agreed.
trying to juggle that and trying to balance various areas throughout our community. And the fact that we are unable to come forward to you and say what they are is unfortunate, because that's what all of your fellow township residents, including us, are trying to come to grips with. Nobody wants to leave people in the balance. But your fears are justifiable, because what we've come up with is
that.
this. Right.
So
That's why we're still juggling and grappling.
Could we vote against it now? And so it wasn't on the record? Otherwise, we may be forced to. I don't know.
We are moving forward in what we believe is good faith toward a good ultimate solution. And
I totally agree with that, and I think that you probably, all of you, recognized that it was a bad vote in November. So if it's a bad vote in November, do the right thing and make a vote now and make it right. That's all.
Thank you.
Good evening. Doug Bixby from 27 Thornley. I just had a question for the attorney. I thought I heard you say earlier that the Dixie Dale proposal was rejected. Is that true? And if that's the case, I thought that that proposal included, that approval included the 24 units over at the skate park.
I didn't say it was rejected. The planning board approved both developments on December 16th of 2019. What I indicated and what I stated was that the Fair Share Housing Center is seeking to prevent those approvals from taking effect. That's their relief. That's what they've asked for.
So if they're successful in preventing that, then what's our plan?
Again, you're asking me to speculate, and I think this is what the Township Committee has been looking at, many options. And to put an explanation or to say this option versus that option, it's precisely what the mayor said. We're trying to come together with a complete package for you so you can see all of the parts. When you do something in a piecemeal fashion, you immediately see holes in that potential solution. So you have to look at the entire picture, and as the mayor said, then there's going to be an analysis of that. The Township Committee is giving you information as it comes in. And they're telling you we're analyzing that information.
Yeah, I just think we should have contingency plans for these. I mean, every town in New Jersey is going through this, and they're going through these objections. And we've got examples that were given earlier of these objections. And I think we need to anticipate those objections, and we need to have contingencies before those objections have arisen.
Doug, I think that we actually have a good example of what you're asking for, and that is on our website. Really, the first motion that we filed, that our attorney filed for us, is on the website. Again, it's on the affordable housing page, and it's, the numbers are 1 through 26, and his is like around 20. And if you look for the brief, that was the motion that our attorney carefully thought out and filed, that really, and it accompanies filings by our engineer, by our administrator, our planner, all of them explaining the direction we're going in, all the steps we've taken. Really, I think it ties right into your request for what our plan is. And we now have a response from the Fair Share Housing Center. That's up there too, so you can see what their response is. And I think you can weigh them both, and we have to respond again now to their motion. But we talked to our attorney about that. He's not ready yet to even talk to us about what his response is yet. So I don't think, in fairness, I can ask him to come out with a hypothetical answer tonight.
Yeah, I'm not looking for an answer from the attorney. I'm looking for an answer from the community. So I'll go and review that, and then I'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Just so it's clear too, Doug,
Yep.
the cross motion was just filed on the 24th. When I went to go print it out on Tuesday, it's one of them is 126 pages. There's 5 different parts to that cross motion. So we had the opportunity to start to go through it. I had the opportunity to read through it. It's interesting what they're claiming. I don't agree with what they're claiming. I don't think it represents all of the work that we've done. I think the brief that was filed by the attorney, which I think is number 26, is not at all indicative of all of the work that has been done. I'm going to leave that up to you to read for just some light reading on your part.
Sure.
And I think that it's going to be fairly illuminating, and I think it's going to be, and for me, it's extraordinarily unfortunate to see Fair Share Housing classify our efforts this way, because we've been in touch with Fair Share Housing all along the way. They've come and visited the township to look at sites in the summer. They've evaluated different sites and different proposals. We're still reaching out to them and discussing things with them. So for them to say that we're showing ill will and dragging our feet because of a couple of reasons that are, in my mind, ridiculous, is not befitting all of the work that's been done. So I'm going to leave it up to you to read, but
just to one other point when you're reading the documents, I think it's important to note in terms of our hesitance and caution, and I hate not being able to speak to the residents. Part of Fair Share Housing's argument against us is a prior township committee member's statement. They pulled TAP articles, they pulled, I can't remember what the other source was, but there's a couple of sources that they used against us in their counter motion that they filed. So we have to be very cautious in how we express anything we say, unfortunately, which is very frustrating for me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Erin Virgo. I live on Candace Lane. And I wrote an article, a letter to the editor earlier this week that was published in Tap into Chatham. And it's in today's Chatham Courier. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. It's called Please Don't Cut Mountain View Gym from the team, or Please Don't Cut 58 Myersville from the team. Okay. I can summarize quickly. I have a daughter. She was here earlier because she had just gotten out of practice at Mountain View. There's 750 kids that play basketball for the Chatham Basketball Club. And there's 22 travel teams. My daughter's lucky that she made one of them because she's 50% my child, and I know nothing about sports. But I love going to watch the girls play. I love watching her friends' teams play. I love watching them grow their confidence. I love watching them be part of a team. I love watching the parents that dedicate 100% of their time, not 100%, dedicate their time, 100% volunteer, to helping these kids develop into the best athletes they can be. But as much as I love watching these games and watching the kids, I'm sad too, because if we lose Mountain View Gym, even for a couple years, we're it's going to have an impact on programs like the Chatham Basketball Club. They use Mountain View Gym 20 to 25 hours a week right now. As it is, the Chatham Basketball Club email, the tryout email comes out and says, it is Chatham Basketball's greatest challenge and regret that we lack gym space to accommodate all children who want to play travel basketball. The club's already renting gym space at a private school to accommodate all the practices, and if it's a fact, if Mountain View Gym is taken out of the picture, there will be fewer teams, fewer travel teams. The usage of the gym isn't limited to just basketball. There's wrestling, baseball, softball that use the space. Mountain View is home to the Chatham Youth Wrestling Program. In the past 2 years, 52,000 boxes of Girl Scout cookies were delivered to Mountain View Gym, and that translates to approximately $40,000 in proceeds to our troops that go directly back into this town. The Ed Foundation hosts Trivia Night in Mountain View Gym, and together with Mountain View, together with Fish and Game, made $24,000 last year for our schools. I know the seniors come together in this building. According to today's Courier, the Chatham Senior Center is jam-packed with activities, and there's 13 activities about 13 that are in the paper that are scheduled for February alone. I just feel like there's a lot of value in this building. My own house, it needs a new furnace, it needs new windows, the roof needs repair. It's the truth. But I'm not tearing it down, and I'm not giving it away because it's in a terrific neighborhood, it's in a fantastic school district, and if you ask my daughter, it has a basketball hoop, so she's quite happy with it. I just like to know when you're evaluating the different options, do you consider the social impacts?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if we can, what you're saying is very accurate, and with this building, whatever's done with this building, the goal is to keep the senior center here, keep the gym,
But you
keep
lose
the
it.
wrestling room.
You lose it while it's under construction.
No, well, we're going to have we're not going to lose the gym. There's going to have to be.
It'll be uninterrupted?
No, it's
during
not going to be.
construction?
It's not going to
Okay.
be uninterrupted. But you're going to lose it
It'll
for
be
a
on
little,
for-
18 months, or you're going to lose it for a period of time. But
Probably more than 18 months. Let's be realistic.
whatever it is, but the goal is not to lose our athletic facilities. The goal is not to lose that field. The goal is not to lose the gym, not to lose the wrestling room, but to have it here for the community for the long term. And that was one of the points that was being made talking with the developers, is that whatever happens to the building, the gym has to stay, the wrestling room has to stay, and the senior center has to stay. But just like anything else, if you're gonna do construction, there's times you're gonna have to move it out and find some place to go temporarily. But you're
who's-
gonna come back.
Who has to find the spots to go? I mean, where do these programs go? Because there's already limited gym space.
Well, just so you know, in discussing this, we've met with the senior center.
I understand.
believe
I read that
Karen
article.
And Bob met with the senior center to talk about relocating them. Mike also met with some people for some alternate spaces. We've spoken with Carol Nauta and Recreation about where we can put, because there's not only just children's league, there's not only just the wrestling,
Right.
there's seniors
There's
playing
an adult league,
pickleball,
I know.
there's volleyball, there's men's basketball leagues, all of those things, and how can we accommodate them? If your children are in the schools, you know about the renovation of the auditoriums. So those had to go offline while they were being renovated because they were 40-plus years old and there was asbestos and the seats were falling apart. So when you get to a certain point, some things will have to come offline when other things are renovated. It's just a fact of the way schools are done. When there were
But we don't
buildings-
have to give away this building, I guess is my point. We have a choice we
It's not giving
can
away the
make.
building, and we're not giving away the recreational facilities.
But you're taking them out of service, which
So
just
if we have to materially renovate this building, and a part of it has to be walled off, or something has to be walled off, or, we're not going to know what that ultimate solution is. But part of the process is maintaining this, because we don't have the space. We don't have a community center, we don't have a recreation center. This is our recreation center, this is a basketball court and a wrestling room. My kids wrestled here, so I get it.
It's
but-
hard as a parent, to explain to your child. It's, like I said, I checked with the Chatham Basketball Club. They will not be able to host the same number of travel teams, so there's going to be more parents that have to explain to their child, I'm sorry, sweetie, you didn't make the team. That's hard at 9 or 10 years old. And I just hope when we make these decisions, we're really considering the kids that live here in this town already, and the parents.
The point that you're making is one that is multiplied many times when you talk about the senior center, which is in the same situation, you know, when you talk about neighborhoods, when you talk about low-income people themselves who need housing. I mean, there are constituencies out there that are all feeling as strongly as you feel. And
This is Chatham Township and Chatham Borough, though, too. It's our entire community. It's a lot of people.
Very good.
Okay.
Hi, Scott Virgo, 21 Candace Lane. Two questions. One is, we talk about the evaluations and the things we're gathering. And I know you can't share all the information because we don't have it all, but have we gathered the scorecard, what we will evaluate? We just talked about social. We definitely have talked cost. There's, you know, traffic. There's environmental. Do we have the scorecard at least that we can share with everyone that'll be what we actually make our final decision on? So it's not just about the dollars and we could actually understand all the variables?
No, we don't, not tonight. We are working on matrices of multiple variables, of looking at multiple sites and a dozen factors on each site. And we are filling in the blanks and moving forward. And we will get there, but we don't have it tonight.
Okay. The early January, we had not hired everyone we needed to make our evaluations. At this point, I know we've made good progress, which I'm very happy to hear. Have we hired everyone, and is everyone marching towards any deadlines, or do we still have outstanding tasks that have not even started?
No, I think that with the time frame that we're working on, I think we are expecting a few more responses, but I'm not aware of any that we have not even initiated yet.
Okay, good. There was something new I learned. I've been listening for quite a while on these things. So we don't need to just pick a location. We need to pick a location and have a committed developer for when we actually go to the court. Did I hear that right today? Because that was something new to me. I always thought we were just trying to identify the location.
Albert, can you?
During the extension period, you have to have a site or sites, have to go through a process at the planning board, and have to have a developer that has at least come to an understanding, a memorandum of understanding or intent regarding proceeding forward.
Okay. So then everyone who stood behind me or in front of me for all this time, we're definitely in a crunch then, right? So it's not just identifying a location. We need to have people who are committed to it. And I'm glad to hear we have 2 people we're working with, but I definitely don't, we're in a tough spot then, it sounds like. One interesting comment last before I go is, you know, there's something that said early last year that, you know, this is catching up with the 3rd memorandum or something like that of the courts, but in 2025, it's coming back. So are we done? Or in 2025, they'll coming back and saying, okay, what about the land on River Road, and what about this? And as a municipality, we're just going to be here again, just in 5 years, trying to pick the next location.
What you're talking about is the 3rd round. The 3rd round, unfortunately, has a long history. But what had occurred was that there was an agency by the name of the Council on Affordable Housing that was supposed to be administering and regulating affordable housing in the state of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to issue its 3rd round rules in 1999. It either adopted rules that were declared invalid by the courts, or at the end, it failed to adopt any rules. So basically from 1999 to 2015, COA failed to perform its function. The case was brought back to the jurisdiction was brought back by the New Jersey Supreme Court to the courts, and so the period of the 3rd round is a 15, 16-year period from 1999 to 2015, and that's the 3rd round, and then this round ends in 2020. I'm sorry, 2025. So by 2025, there would be a 4th round, and the next issue is, will the legislature fix the affordable housing
Before 2025.
before 2025.
Okay.
And if the legislature does a comprehensive legislation to address it for all municipalities in the state, then that's a very different position than now when every municipality is doing this on its own.
Mhm.
So one of the things that should be considered is urging the legislature to come up with new laws or amended laws to address this in 2025, so it's before an agency that is dealing with affordable housing on a day-to-day basis, as opposed to the courts. So bring it back out of the courts and into an administrative agency.
Yeah, and that's a New Jersey thing, that's a community thing, that they have to fix that with laws
Well,
for New Jersey.
the New Jersey Supreme Court said that providing a realistic opportunity for affordable housing is a municipal obligation. But what the Council on Affordable Housing was doing is setting consistent rules so that they could be applied in a uniform way, whether you were up in Bergen County or down in Cape May County. And so that continuity has been lost, and it's created this litigation mode that really is very difficult to come to the solutions that need to be arrived at in a litigation process.
So, sounds like our problems may not be solved, but hopefully legislators will help us, everyone in New Jersey. But if not, we could be back here in 5 years.
All right, this is not a unique problem to Chatham.
Yep.
Just read the newspaper, and all the surrounding towns are going through the same struggle.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Jerry Nigro, I live on River Road. I live at 475, directly across the street from the proposed building.
I'm sorry, across the street from what?
The proposed building, one of the proposed sections that you're talking about building on. So last when I was here, I left very encouraged that there was nothing dramatic planned over where I live. Very surprised to get someone come to our door and tell us that this was happening, email us information with including a lot of the stuff that's been discussed tonight. So what's being proposed is directly across the street from me. Prior to that, about a week after I was here, I got a letter, registered letter from the state. The property that's next to me that's been for sale for over a year, somebody wants to put in, wants a variance or an easement or whatever to put a septic tank there. The whole back of my property, at least half of my property, is protected wetlands. There is a line drawn on the engineer's map, which I have with me, with a little square that says additional draining onto my property. So I don't know how that happens on protected wetlands. However, apparently it is. This is, I guess, so that that property can be sold because it currently has a septic tank that had failed, which is why it's still sitting a year on the market. So I don't know, in an area where there are no sidewalks, no sewers, how you can propose to put a building 64, 65 units over there, and then another one next to me on the property that they're talking about buying. So ultimately, this little house that I have, which is the only valuable asset I own, which is not that valuable, is going to have no value by the time the smoke clears. I will be effectively booted out of Chatham because I will have to sell my house, which will have lost value.
You've touched on a couple things. I mean, I'm not sure if the letter came from
I have the map.
a property. Yeah, tonight's not really the night to
I
go into
understand that, but
But you're welcome to stop by our construction office, and they can probably fill you in if it's something that's making its way through the process.
It came from an engineer's office and sent by the DEP. So someone somewhere has generated this, and it's official. I called the DEP, the land use people, and they were kind of vague and couldn't give me any information. Shocking, I know. So, and my son works for the DEP, so double shocking. Different department. Who knows? So that's curious. So that was the first thing. And then to get all this other information that the building was proposed and to buy the two houses because it's going to be aesthetically unpleasing. Really? I'm across the street from it.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, is this related to, there was something before the Board of Health. Is this related to a 1.5-story house that's for sale on River Road?
Probably.
So,
Yes, there was a septic application that was before the Board of Health back in December. It was publicly noticed on the public agenda, and it was approved by the Board of Health contingent upon them getting a permit from the DEP.
I have the letter from the DEP.
Yeah, and it's, the letter that you got is in connection with their DEP application. In order for them to move forward with that DEP application, the Board of Health had to first approve that, approve the application with that contingency. There was a family in town, I don't know where the real estate transaction stands, but yeah, this is all tied up with a family that currently lives in town, is looking to buy that property to live in it. It's a family of 3, and they're looking to buy the house, fix up the septic, and live there.
I understand that the property probably is uninhabitable unless there's a septic fix.
Yes.
Fix.
And
But
the
if
fact that
you're
it was,
talking-
you know, the fact that the Board of Health was able to approve that septic is only because there's already a house there and already an existing septic, or it's actually a cesspool, so putting in, and I can let Mr. Rushke comment on the engineering of it, but the board's determination was that having a functional system is better than having the broken cesspool than what's currently there.
So if there's a proposal about putting affordable housing directly across the street from this, then you will need public sewers. So why would they even consider this? That would be then fouling the Passaic River, which is literally steps from where the septic tank is proposed to be, with a drainage line running onto my property. Did anybody call me? No.
why don't
Curious.
you bring this in so we could look at it? And,
I have it.
Okay, but it's
I understand.
it's 10:40 at night. If you come in during the day, we can get some answers.
Well, I work for a living too, so.
Or we'll make copies and get back to you if you want. But
But I just find the whole situation kind of curious. When we spoke, you and I, you had kind of reassured me that there was really nothing going on over there. Life is good. I think, all right, good, I'm gonna stop worrying about it. And I kind of feel like in the last 2 weeks, I've kind of been blindsided between the letter from the state and now this, and the emails that I've gotten telling me that this is proposed directly across the street from me.
So let me just go back to this, a question though. It's a private sale that's happening
Okay.
with that
Well,
property.
part of what the emails were that I received said there was.
Right, I mean,
I'm
this
sorry,
is,
I'm running over.
we're trying to solve an application that we
Yes.
don't know anything about.
Yeah, we
So-
can't delve
so-
into this, really. I mean, it's...
Personal problem, I get it.
sounds...
No, it's not a personal problem. Mr. Hoffman offered you to come to the office and meet with him or give him the information, and someone would get back to you. But this is far beyond what you can handle at a meeting at night.
I suspect you're correct about that. I'm sorry, what? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not loud enough? So, all right, so this is one of these?
No, I think...
I have your card.
And she got an email from somebody. That's the mystery one. Yeah. Well.
Talking about 150 on River Road, where you said that we have to do it.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Going once? Please.
Yes, good evening. John Stricko, Noe Avenue. Thank you for sharing the information regarding the cost of renovating the 2 municipal properties versus constructing another one. I guess I remain unconvinced that we can't improve and keep these buildings functional rather than building another structure, which, from what I've seen, often costs much more than initially proposed. Given that, the bigger concern is moving the police station, just as a matter of cost and proposal, because it seems to make sense financially, although I'm not convinced. Again, the police station is in a place where it is for a good reason. It is near the busiest intersection and the highest density of businesses in the township next to the houses of worship, the schools, and really ideally located to serve that area very quickly, not only from a functional perspective, but from a threat perspective. In that anyone who is considering doing something to know that the police are just within a moment away is a strong deterrent. And having the police station at this location would completely lose that deterrent and the ability for the police to respond to emergencies in the highest populated area where the greatest possibility of problems could occur. So I really urge you very carefully to reconsider, considering even to move the police station to this location.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Brian Benson, 10 Driftway Street. Very quickly, I just wanted to say I agree with everything that was just said about the police station. That's what I was going to stand up here and say before. It was just said much better than what I was going to say. So I agree with that 100%. I think it'd be crazy to move the police station. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, and I don't agree with the math that says it's better to move up here. And then the other thing I'd just like to say is I think it's great that you guys are looking at more than 2 locations. I think, like that old saying, a good compromise, everybody is equally unhappy. I think that's what you really need to have happen for this town, not to really be at each other's throats, like a third. Everybody deals with extra traffic. Everybody complains about their narrow streets, and everybody's equally happy or unhappy. And then I think you have come up with a good solution. I hope it works out that way. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll be brief. Vicki Aloya, Rolling Hill Drive. I commend you to keep working to avoid the builder remedy, but you said something a little scary tonight in that the Fair Share Housing Group kind of got their first victory in staying the Dixie-Dale Tree Farm development. So are we losing in this fight right now?
I didn't say that. They filed a motion, meaning they requested that the court give them relief. What I itemized before was that request. The judge makes a decision. So.
And has he made a decision yet?
February 14th.
Okay.
Okay, so what I did, it's not intended to scare anyone or alarm you, but I just tried to explain what the township did in its motion and the response that was received.
Understood, but it sounds like the ball is getting bigger and rolling towards a victory for this Fair Share Housing Corp. They seem to be moving down that road to win a builder remedy solution for our town based on the motions that they filed.
Maybe I'll take that one, Albert. No. Both sides have filed motions, and we are waiting for another motion to be filed by the court-appointed master, who's the planning consultant to the judge, and he will look at the different the motions and make a decision. We feel strongly that we are acting in very good faith, and we're continuing to do everything we humanly possibly can be done to move forward and accomplish this goal.
Okay.
And so that's where we are now.
All right, thank you.
And I would expect that the developer for Dixie-Dale and Arbor Green will also have something to say about this and file a response to Fair Share's cross motion.
Why not?
Or would they walk away?
That's speculation. I
Okay.
expect them to file a response to the cross motion.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Christina Mott at Nicholson Drive. I just had a really simple question for Mr. Hoffman. During your presentation, you were talking about the combined building costing about $7.2 million. And then you went on to say something about a 28,000 square foot building being about $10 million. And I was curious about what the difference is between those two buildings. What are you speaking about that would be 10 million, and with the combined building that was $7.2 million, is that in this location, or is that the price no matter which location it's placed?
No, the $7.2 million would be to move the police department to this building and to renovate this building so that it could accommodate the police department operations here, including the addition for the Sally Port and the holding cells. So, so that's the 7.2. The
It was like
the
10,929,000.
Right, yes, that was for a new construction of a combined police department municipal building. That would be 27,900 square feet. So that would be new construction from top to bottom.
Would that be here?
No,
Or
that would,
wherever?
that would be in another location because it's new construction, so it would not be here. It would be in another location.
Okay.
So, and what had been discussed previously was putting it down where, in the parking lot between the police department and the DPW building, but it could be built on any open spot.
Okay, so you would have to acquire land to do that, probably.
Well, the goal would be to build it on municipally owned property, which is basically why it was recommended for the police department, the building, the lot between the police department and the DPW.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Last but not least.
Are we, before we do second
yes.
rounds, is there anyone else who hasn't spoken yet who wishes to speak?
Just one question.
Absolutely.
Mohammed Salim, 54 Majra. Regarding the court decision in February, if it comes unfavorable to us, what kind of steps can we do? Can we file a motion? Is there like is there anything we can do to revert?
I'd have to see what the ruling is, and make a determination based upon the ruling, whether it's something that needs to be appealed, whether it can be appealed. Again, there's many things that can be done, but to speculate about what will occur is hard. Yes, the township will take a step as a result of whatever court decision there is.
Okay.
And anyone else for the first time? Very good.
Here we go. So hypothetical question that I have is, so what happens if, I'm sorry, Costa Kuluyanis, 99 Susan Drive. So hypothetical, what if what you're offering or what you're making available to a developer is no longer appealing to a developer? Whether it's a multi-site solution or whether you're giving them a very crummy one-site solution. My point is, what if you have no one that bites on what the town is saying may be available? What happens at that point? So does the town lose this immunity to builder's remedy, or what is the town forced to do? What happens to the town's obligation under, with affordable housing if you don't have someone that's willing to build on what may be what you may be offering?
Hypothetically,
yeah.
I mean, we are looking at a range of options, and none of them will come to fruition unless we can find a developer to develop it. So, I mean, something may theoretically drop off the radar if it can't be executed. But we are looking at a multitude of options.
But my point is, what happens in terms of the town's obligations at that point?
It doesn't go away. The obligation remains.
Okay, and then it just remains ad infinitum, or it remains in the sense that the town is forced to do something about it, or what happens? If the lot I'm giving you is the crummiest lot, the crummiest lot in the neighborhood, no, it's a hypothetical question. But I mean, if you're telling me you only have one or maybe two developers, and you initially had five at least that were potentially interested in, and now you're saying, okay, maybe not a one-site solution, maybe a multi-site solution.
We're talking about so many hypotheticals.
No, we're not, no, this is a very specific hypothetical. I'm sorry, please, just don't interrupt me. It's a very specific hypothetical. If you do not have a developer that's willing, I don't know what's my,
That's a very.
am I funny to you guys? I don't
No,
know.
it's saying it's a very specific hypothetical is,
It's,
No, I think,
No, there's nothing-
Someone commented on this before, and they were very accurate. You know, any site is developable, it's just a matter of how much money you put into it. So that, it really comes down to any site can be developed, it's a matter of how much money the township has to put into it, and we're obviously looking at minimizing the amount of money that the
Of course.
township puts into it. So really, any site is developable, and that's not an issue of not finding a site, it's a matter of finding a practical solution.
so if this site here, which was, a sweet option, I'm sure, for a developer or developers, is no longer available for, because it's, not palatable to the community, et cetera, and other sites that are available are much less desirable, but you don't have a developer that's willing to work with that. What happens to this obligation? It doesn't go away. I understand what
believe
Mr. Cruz
I
said.
believe that Mr. Rushke and also a gentleman who spoke before you did, who was in the building community, said, for a fee, we will build it. You show me land, you're going to give me the land, and you are going to fund my building efforts, you'll find somebody to do it. So there may be engineering costs that will be foot by the township, there may be architectural costs, there may be sewer costs, there may be who knows what costs. The purpose of us naming a site or sites is to say that we will municipally sponsor the development of that site. So if you have a shred of capitalism in you, you can realize that somebody will come along for the right price and throw a building up there. And if you look at Resolution 2020-047, which we passed this evening, you will see that we passed the resolution with the intent to bond for expenses that did not get funded otherwise. So the township has passed this resolution that we will make sure the buildings get built if we identify the lots and the builders come up short. So I think as far as your specific hypothetical, yes, no, and I'm not laughing at you, because hypothetically speaking, your question is very specific. And specifically, I think all indications are that you would find a builder to build on a lot if he was getting paid to do it.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
what builders do,
Yep, all right.
right?
Thank you and good
I
night.
mean, I can't see it any other way personally.
Sorry. First question, my name is Heidi Harding. I'm on Ninedale Drive. My assumption is the answer is going to be no, but is there anything beyond what you are all doing extensively already? Is there anything else from the community that we can be doing in addition to show the support for moving forward and to trying to find a solution that would somehow clearly demonstrate to the courts or those that need to be that we are in true good faith on this?
Thank you for your offer. We certainly appreciate that. I can't think of anything at this stage. I mean, I think we will be moving forward in the not-too-distant future with plans, and we would certainly welcome your positive feedback and thoughts on those plans, and that would be a big help. But I think we have our trust in our attorney, and
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, I mean, is it to show up to something and show support beyond here, obviously? Is there to reach out that we would do anything like that?
yeah, I've asked that question, and apparently packing the courtroom is not
help.
So
I think expressions of support from the community is a positive thing. We know that they're reading the papers. We know that they see what's going on in our community. If you feel so disposed to speak about the benefits of affordable housing in a community, then I think the courts will see that. I mean, they're looking at the papers, they're reading the papers, they're watching the
tone of the community.
Yeah, so if all that they see is negative input from the community, I think it can only be offset by positive input from the community.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for all your work, really.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
One thing that can happen for the future is what our township attorney has expressed tonight and other nights, as well as members of the township committee, that this issue needs to be fixed legislatively by our state senators and our assembly people. So if this can be fixed so that there's a statewide solution that is fair to all, that would be helpful. But that would come from our assembly people and our state senators looking at this and coming up with rules, reasonable rules that all municipalities can follow, so that we don't go through this agita every few years. So,
exercise.
yeah. So
I don't think that that can be stressed enough, because we have seen how communities throughout the state of New Jersey are begging their elected officials to please get something going for when we do face the next round of our Mount Laurel requirements in 2025. That will be taken out of the courts and be handled by the people that we elect. That is our state assembly and our state senators. So our state senator is former Governor Richard Cody, Assemblywoman Myla Jacey, Assemblyman Jack McKean. And their email addresses are on the New Jersey State Legislature website. We can familiarize ourselves with demands that we would, or requests or pleas for the legislature to address it. It's 2025. And if you talk about the glacial pace at which government works, there's no better time to start addressing this matter with our legislators. And once again, you know, we talk about elections mattering. These people come up for election too, to figure out whether they support standing on the side of municipalities or whether they are all for allowing builders' lobbies or whomever to run the show. Figure out what they're going to stand for, and figure out when they come up for election. And we can start working on that going forward for 2020. We've got an obligation right here, right now.
Okay.
But the next one's going to be coming around the mountain pretty soon.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not far away.
So to Mr. Hoffman's point, I think getting a dialogue going to try and face the next go-round head-on would be a really great use of time and energy.
Speaking of great use of time,
Yes.
it is now 4 minutes to 11, and our bylaws require that we need to adopt a resolution if we go past 11 and attack new business. We've done that when action requires it, but I think in today's situation, we have, it's really discussion, and so I would hope that we've covered everybody out there. Rich, you're at the microphone, by all means, wrap it up.
Try to finish it before 11.
Please.
First of all, Rich Matlager from 36 Dale Drive. I'd like to thank the openness of the committee. I thought that in November, it was sprung on the residents, and it was a very uncomfortable feeling, and it felt very hostile sitting out here. And now you feel a different temperament. I think that it's easy to see the efforts. Before, there probably was efforts, but we weren't aware of it. And it's nice for you to be open and keep us going. It's a little difficult to follow on the website, but the information is there. The filings are there, and you could read through them, and you could at least have a sense of what is going on. So for that, I thank you.
Thank you.
And then to close the meeting.
You're our closer, Rich. You're our closer.
Keep in mind, because my grandchildren are selling them, Girl Scout cookies are out there. And Thin Mints are very good for you. They're healthy and they keep you calm.
They do.
Very good.
Perfect. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Rich.
Thank you. And on that note, I'll close the public meeting, or public portion of the public comment portion of the meeting. And do we have need for a closed session? No. Thank goodness.
Wow. Home at 11.
Can I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
And
We're not used to this. We're used to getting home at 1.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.